5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Recording here with Robb McCormick, musician extraordinaire. But I've been wanting to have a musician on the podcast because there's a lot of things that I'm going to ask you questions about the digital music right now.
Right.
I want to talk to somebody in the industry, so to speak, and no one better, in my opinion. You were on Spotify when you played a show for our nonprofit 3 or 4 years ago. Because I remember I was kind of pumping you up in the gym and before you got there and after you left, playing your music on Spotify, getting that 0.0000009, you know, whatever it is.
I wish it was that much. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. But you know, I've you've been on my radar for a long time. I don't know if you remember this, but I'm in like 10th, 11th grade. I have this shaggy hair. I'm working as a barista in the College Avenue Coffee House.
Right.
You come in with your black and white newspaper S flyer with the fans.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, this is my fan club.
Yeah.
But I remember the manager was like, yeah, I don't know about you playing here. And then he was like, oh, wait, I've heard of you. Yeah, you can play here. And then you became kind of a staple of that venue.
College Avenue. I'm trying to remember who was the...
It's now Fox and
That's
Fork.
right. It was Fox and Fork now. But who was managing back then? Was it?
His name was Robert. It was before that we had a guy named Dylan Egan.
Okay.
And he led, but Ron Leonard owned it.
Oh, yeah. I remember Ron. Yeah.
Josh Wilson was just on the podcast the other day. And
cool.
we were reminiscing about him playing the piano in there back in the day.
Yeah, man. I love that spot, man.
It is such a unique little spot for Clarksville.
Yeah, and the fact that it's supporting. I mean, Fox and Fork is doing really well there. They're, you know.
Yeah, that's good. I heard they
have live music too.
Live music. You still playing there?
I do. Whenever I can, I try to always set aside at least once every 3 or 4 months. So.
Yeah, nice, man. So you burn up the local scene for sure. What's how are you traveling? What kind of gigs are you doing? I mean, you're just a busy guy.
Yeah. Well, last night I was in Little Rock. I was playing at the Tavern down Montchanal Parkway.
Nice.
And then tomorrow I'll be at Fort Smith, Bricktown Brewery. So, you know, it's just kind of bouncing between Little Rock, Fort Smith, Fayetteville. You know, my wife and I, we had kids, and we're like, I want to be around. You know, I want to be gone for 3 weeks at a time. So we made that decision to stay within basically a 6-hour radius. So I'll go to St. Louis and I'll go to Shreveport.
Shreveport's a good little area.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's. I think all towns have their own personality, you know, and Shreveport's really unique in that there's so much cultural flavor there.
Yes, you know, the Foo Fighters are playing at the Horseshoe in just a couple of months. I've been panning all these local concerts. My birthday's coming up, so I'm spotting what we're going to go celebrate and see.
Right on. My wife and I decided we were going to celebrate with our 15th anniversary.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. 15's new 30. So we're going to celebrate. We're going to see U2 in Tulsa in May.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's super.
Yeah. Cora's been jamming Bloody Sunday around the house.
Right
recently.
on.
Yeah.
Right on. Did you ever hear that story about how Bono had a death threat if he played Sunday Bloody Sunday? They were going to kill him. And so and this is probably earlier on in their career, but they kick it up and he starts singing it and he just closes his eyes and holds his arms out and
okay, I've seen that's an iconic picture.
Right,
I feel
but
like
then
I've
he
seen.
opens his eyes after he was singing the first chorus and he didn't get shot, and Adam Clayton, the bass player, is standing right in front of him just looking out the audience. So he's like, I got you covered, bro.
Wow.
I think that's why they're still together after 40 years making music, because friendship, you know.
Did you and I just recently watched this because I've been going down a big Led Zeppelin rabbit hole.
Yeah?
But did you have you seen It Might Get Loud?
Yeah. Yeah,
man. Like, you know, when it came out, I didn't appreciate it like I did when I saw it the other day. But that part where Jack White and The Edge and Jimmy Page are playing Kashmir.
Right. Well, I know, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying it's, they're just 3 iconic, you know, those guys are just iconic guitar players. So. Yeah.
Man, so outside, I know you've always been playing. You've always done gigs, whether it's events. I've seen you play downtown at here in Russellville.
Yeah, the music downtown Sundown.
Is music what you're doing full time?
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I feel like that's been the gig for the last since you've been on my radar.
Are you ready for this? I mean, will be my 20th year as Some Guy Named Robb, and this is my 20th year of when I was 20. I want to say, but let's say early 20s. I quit all my jobs. I was working 4 jobs that I didn't like, and I just thought I was working. I find myself on Friday and Saturday nights. I was working all the nights I should have been playing music, and I thought everything I'm doing is kind of productive to what I want to do, and so I just quit everything, and which is completely stupid. No one should do that.
Yeah.
But I did, and
I did the same thing, man.
Yeah.
I got that sort of entrepreneurial.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Well, my dad started a business, whenever he was in his 20s, and he started, that I think that there's something about that entrepreneurial spirit that it gets passed on. If you're around people that are like that, then you're more likely to do it yourself. So I started playing shows. I would play anywhere, play everywhere, and the more that I did it, the more people eventually kind of did. And then, well, cool, we'll make an album. So I made an album, and that was successful. For a first album, it was successful. And,
what was the name of your first album?
The Irresponsible Years.
Okay, yeah. I have several of your CDs, man, from back in the day. I was panning through an old CD case. I'm working on a music room across the hall.
Cool.
So is that Something Is Nothing?
Everything Is Nothing.
Everything Is Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my ecclesiastical, my revelation of, wow, in the end, we're all going to die, and everything we know is going to change. So we might as well get used to the idea that all things are in passing and all things are transient. So.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. But I came to your shows and bought your CDs, requested songs. I
appreciate it. I mean, and so I've rented out the Center for the Arts October 20th.
Okay.
And I am 2018, and it's what I'm going to try to do is put on a show, like a real show. I'm talking like aerial acrobatics and hula hoops, and I just want to reach out in the community and grab this talent and then put it all together for this really fun 20th celebration of just being here. And because you're right, surviving in Arkansas of all places, which is not known for its, everyone's like, well, Johnny Cash came from Arkansas, but he left.
Yes.
To stay here and to have been able to do this for the past 20 years, it's been my full-time job. And it's a blessing, man. It's really a blessing. So
yeah, no, and that's living the life. I have people ask me sort of weird questions all the time because my wife and I, we have a pretty unorthodox lifestyle as well.
Right.
We own a martial arts academy and a mixed martial arts gym, jiu-jitsu, Forza, and it's I've got that, and I teach a little class on the side just to satisfy my interest in history, and got my hands on a lot of different things that I really enjoy doing. That's just kind of always been my take. I don't know if some people probably would say I had a problem with authority back in the day when I was much younger, but I feel like it's just been that's my personality type, is to be able to work. I work 100 hours for myself and 40 hours for somebody else type of situation.
No, man, I think if we think about the job market right now, so many people I was studying this today about education, about how it's in need of reformation because we've taught them how to be factory workers, and now we don't need factory workers nearly as much as we need creative thinkers, and we need people who are going to solve critical thinking and timely, and so I don't know how we need to restructure that. Yeah,
I deal, we have the nonprofit, and we offer a fair amount of free classes. So I'm always dealing with people that probably, and not saying that the people who do the free classes are a lower tier of individual. It has nothing to do with it. But I'll get a lot more kids in the boxing program, for example, that they don't have a lot of motivation. I'm not going to go to college. And I used to, hey, well, you need to come up with something. Now I'm just like, well, maybe the college is not for you, but here's some other things that might be.
Right.
And I'm fortunate enough that I get to use my master's degree to do something fulfilling.
Right.
You said Reformation. I was like, I just lectured on that this morning. Martin Luther action in the house. I was like, okay, guys, this is not the most exciting topic, but we're going to make it exciting. And I think they enjoyed it. Because I wasn't excited about it when I heard about it last, but I did a bunch of research and put in my due diligence to learn that topic. Is definitely not my strong suit.
Oh, I got you, man. I got you.
But and then too, just I actually work at a college that's big on vocation. But I tell anybody, I'm like, well, there's a lot of people that have college degrees now. I actually felt like pressured to get a master's degree just because I'd already got my undergrad, and it's like, well, what am I going to do with this? And but
that's kind of how college is set up now. It's if you need to have a master's, you need to have a PhD.
And I'm probably going to get my PhD.
Right.
I mean, that's a long-term goal. I may not do it till I'm 40. But and fortunately, working for a UA campus, I get half-price tuition on a PhD.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
so.
I've played down there at the Morton campus, right? And it's
right on.
Really, I've always enjoyed the Union
it's a
Station.
Nice campus. Yeah,
it really is. It's one of the nicer places and one of the nicer campuses that I remember playing.
They've really done well with the infrastructure, and they're building a great new building for the vocational stuff. That's has nothing to do with why I'm pumping it.
No. I drove by there last night, and I don't. What's the building with all the glass windows?
That's that new one they're working on. Yeah,
beautiful.
It is.
And I was like, has this always been there? Because I was driving by last night. I was like, I don't remember that being. That's gorgeous. They really are putting some.
Well, and just I was looking forward to it. It gets nice outside because they've got nice sidewalks and benches, and I mean, to be right next to I-40, it's a beautiful little spot.
It really is. Yeah, it's yeah. Well, so you're talking about music. What you were saying about digital music.
Yes. So this seems to be a topic that's coming up on a lot of artists that I'm following, and whether I was the lead singer of Garbage was on a podcast I was listening to
Shirley
recently. Yes. And of course, like ranging from like James Hetfield from Metallica. He was on Joe Rogan recently. I was listening to him, but it's interesting to me to see some of the people's views on. Like I mentioned, I'm like, hey, I got your CDs back there in the box, because it's just, you
really
I can listen
have
to you
right there.
Yeah, I can listen to you on Spotify, and it's weird to me how we've gone to like this cloud-based digital system, and yet still I just bought my first record player across the hall also, so like I'm kind of starting to collect vinyl.
I'm a vinyl junkie myself.
It's a different sound, and
it is a different sound, and it makes you pay attention to what you're doing. Like that's the thing is, I tell people, 100 years ago, if you wanted to hear music, then your mama better be singing while she was doing the dishes, and you were harmonizing with her while you were helping her, and then maybe Uncle Eddie would come from 2 counties over with his 5-string guitar, and it would be normally 6, but he broke one. He hasn't made it back into town to get that 6-string fix. So that was music 100 years ago. It was more silence than anything else. Now we wake up, it's playing music. We go into our car and go somewhere, it's playing music. We get into an elevator, it's playing music. We go to a meeting, it's playing music. We go to dinner, it's playing music. There's always music. And I think that, and this is, I've analyzed this a lot. I've spent a lot of time.
I can tell. I was like, there is music everywhere in the world. Just listening to you say that.
Right. And there really is. And I think what it is, there's 2 things. Like I think about things a lot, I dichotomize them and think, okay, it's spiritual and in the real world, physical. And, well, that could be, they're both real. but I think spiritually, people don't like to be alone with their thoughts. They don't like silence. And that's why people will leave the TV on whenever they're not watching it. That's when
I do
people
that all the time.
Well, it's just because there's even a little bit of dread whenever people reach over to turn off the TV, because it's almost like you're alone. And I think that if we just address that and maybe even condition ourselves, be like, you know what, I'm going to sit here for an hour and not be entertained by, because music is entertainment as well. I'm not going to listen to the radio. I'm not going to do this. And I made a practice of walking up Mount Nebo. I wanted to just do it day after day.
I saw you running up Mount Nebo.
Well, let's not say running. I was definitely crawling.
That is a stiff run.
Well, I was doing it like 6 or 8 months straight, just every day going and forcing myself to do that, and no music, just walking,
nature,
walking with God, walking and hearing the silence, hear the wind through the trees, hear the birds, and there's so much I learned just going up there in silence. And I would encourage everybody. As much as I love music, but music doesn't mean what it used to, because it's so readily available now, because it's like
you can't get away from it.
If I want to hear the Bangles' Manic Monday right now, all I have to do is say it, and it will pop up on my phone. This is and that's why I think vinyl's resurgence is. It's like, hey, we're going to listen to this. We're going to take this vinyl, this 180 gram vinyl, and put it on the record player and spin it.
It's like, I consider myself a bit of a collector.
Yeah.
And the digital music's kind of taken all the fun out of the collecting.
Man. Yeah, like I used to have all this quote unquote rare stuff, right? Like stuff that you can only get from England, UK import, that kind of stuff. And you were like held it up and like, yeah, man, I got this CD, and all your friends were like, oh, whoa, man, could you burn me a copy of that or whatever? And now it's like I can Google it, and it will pop right up.
Yeah, I mean,
What's rare?
How far we've gone from like Napster to like, hey, bro, let me burn you a CD.
Right.
To now, what's a CD?
Right.
I mean, that's people, I feel like these high school kids and stuff of our...
It's a coaster. That's all it is. Yeah, it's a coaster. So thinking about this from a business standpoint, because we've talked about royalties being ridiculous on streaming. I think
it's like that everywhere.
It is. It's like that all over the world, and
be disheartening.
Less in other places. Well, I think what it is the model has changed now. Now it's no longer making money per se off of the plays, whereas it was. It still works for the Taylor Swifts and it still works for the Bruno Mars, but that echelon of people that goes into the 0.0000001% of people who play music. The rest of everybody else has to get fed, has to put food on the table. So I've found that that it's not about monetizing the music like that anymore. It's about, of course, it's always been about playing shows. It's always been about staying on the road. But I'll tell you what I'm doing right now with Kickstarter. I've done a pre-order for my new album. It's called The Folkster. And it's just different tiered rewards. Have you know what Kickstarter is?
Yeah, roughly. Yes.
Well,
go ahead.
The idea of it is that it allows you, and there's a few places like Indiegogo and PledgeMusic.com that will do the same thing. I chose Kickstarter because I was a little more familiar with the way it formats, because I've backed projects before. The idea is you set a goal for what you need. You explain to people what it is and how much you need and what you're going to use the money for, and then you basically put rewards and say, okay, for $25 you can get a download and a T-shirt, or you can get a CD and something or another.
That's a good idea.
Well, it's so far. What's crazy? I've had this for 2 weeks, and I put it out there, and I did the math, and the math was, okay, if I'm going to do this album, do it well, it's going to be $10,000, and if I were to do that in old days, then I would probably cut corners and try to, and then max out a credit card, and then put out an album, have a CD release show, and try really hard to sell these albums, and then pay off my credit card. That's the old days. But I'm anti-credit card, so now what we've done is we've said, okay, we have 28 days from February 1 to February 28, and if people want it, it's $10,000, and if they don't want it, then okay, then I won't make the album that I want to make. I'll just make it for however many people want to hear it. These pre-orders will tell me how many. So far, dude, we've it's been over $5,000 in pre-orders. It blows my mind. I had no idea. I honestly thought, okay, this is going to fail. Because
are you able to see where your demographics at?
Yeah.
Is it mainly here in the River Valley, Arkansas?
No, it's crazy, man. Like on Spotify, it'll tell you like, oh, someone in Paris, France is listening. So for the longest time, Paris, France was the number one place that people were listening to my music. So Colombia, Argentina, that's the beautiful thing about the internet, though. I mean,
I know
people can just listen. It doesn't matter where they are; they're still hearing the same music. So distribution is not the problem anymore. The problem now is obscurity, because I don't know if you've heard this, but for every 60 seconds that goes by, 10 hours of new music is being uploaded.
Oh, wow.
To the internet. That's over 300,000 songs a day.
Well, I've told several people this. I might have mentioned on the podcast. This is our 21st episode total. So,
cool. 21.
Yeah, there you go. And it, man, I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot of, you think that it's going to reform and get better? Is this the beginning? Is this like the Wild West of the digital side? Or, I mean, because it just seems like audio uploads, for the podcast, I got into this. There's no audio version of YouTube out there. I mean, there is, and maybe SoundCloud would be awesome for you, but you couldn't upload all your albums on SoundCloud without paying.
I would have to pay to have them on there, right?
Yeah. Well, so you can. Here's what they give you.
Yeah.
3 hours a month.
3 hours a month.
And a lot of your audio sites are like that. YouTube, right. I get unlimited hours of uploads. I've done a 3-hour podcast. Mm-hmm. And I can just throw that up. It uploads it. We're good. Audio, I posted on this place called Podbean. But I was looking at SoundCloud, and I looked at least 10 other providers, different ones, and they were all, ended up having to pay like $108 or something, which was super low dough. But it's odd to me that there's not become an audio sort of version of YouTube out there that works more off of. I mean, I guess there.
No, I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm thinking that the thing is that visually, it's so powerful. I mean, even we're recording this, for visual too. People like to see people. I know. They like to be a part of that. I'm not saying it wouldn't work. I'm not saying, maybe you're onto something. Maybe just audio.
And I think we might be in a transitional spot on that, because everybody I talk to says they watch more of whatever on YouTube than anything else. Right. And I think that we're going into that era. But all the blogs and stats I read say that you get 3 times more audio listens on podcasting. I don't know about on music, but it's fascinating to me.
I think that, again, this kind of goes along with the obscurity knocking on the door, is that people, they tend to look at a video and hear the music via a visual. And that's kind of one of the only, I say this because the question for artists now is not how can I make something great, because with our Macs and with our ability to record, this is professional sound recording right here. It's not going to be nearly as difficult to record, but it's going to be incredibly hard to get people's attention, because we're scrollers. Now we just scroll up. We'll hear 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds of something, maybe, and that's all our brains can handle. And I mean, what do you do with that? People are constantly.
Do you write around that? I mean, do you try and come up with something crafty in that first few seconds of your song?
I should.
I mean, but how that just seems? Then it seems forced, right?
It does, and for me, I think it's more about connecting with people. I think that's it. You just have to find your tribe. There's people out there that, and you found it. Like with Forza, you found people that's your tribe, and I think the same thing is true with me with Some Guy Named Robb. I found people over the last 20 years that they don't just connect to the music, they connect to me. And the more that you sow into them, the more they're willing to sow into you. And that's what the Kickstarter thing has really surprised me, because I think there's something inside every artist that says, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not it's somewhere between hugely inflated ego and just no one likes me, no one's gonna even, and a lot of Kickstarter things fail. You'll get to the thing, you're like, okay, that thing had 12% funded and it was over with. So it's a daunting, and it was really hard for me to push the button on $10,000, because I thought it's insane.
It's stepping out on a limb a little bit.
For me, it is, especially just because I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But someone's like, you could set a goal for $1,000, but that's not going to help you. You're not going to reach, you're not going to be able to make an album on $1,000, or you're not going to make a good album.
Do you have your own recording studio?
I record from home, but mostly just demos, mostly just to pass it out to the band and say. What I've always said is it's the people who turn the knobs that really deserve the money, because I can record it, but I can't mix it, I can't master it, I can't make it sound professional. Those people are worth their weight in gold. That's what I found.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing some of the mixing boards I've seen, just even the ones at like the high school theaters,
I know.
man.
Yeah.
Mike, Dr. Dre has this same one.
Mm-hmm.
It's or just like, for example, I was watching Dr. Dre like mix recently.
Yeah.
This is I'm watching. I think it was on that HBO put out the Defiant ones. I don't know if you saw that. Super
Actually, I've
great.
got that set ready to watch. So.
Oh, it's so good. I watched it like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Because it starts off telling the story of Jimmy Iovine with Tom Petty.
Right.
And he's dating Stevie Nicks at the time.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, rest in peace, Tom Petty.
Oh, man.
That's super unfortunate.
That was, did you hear, it wasn't just a heart attack, it was a concoction of medical prescribed drugs that...
Yeah, man, I hate that. I had a guy I know in the jiu-jitsu community, his little brother, he had all these back issues. Same thing happened to him more or less in his sleep, and this guy was like 20-something years old. Before he broke his back somehow. Before that happened, he had all the potential in the world to be. I mean, his brother coaches all these UFC fighters, and the youngest jiu-jitsu black belt in the United States, and the only person to ever wrestle in the NCAA that didn't wrestle in high school.
Wow.
So, but just an amazing guy. And his Ricky Landell is this guy's name, and his brother passed away due to some. It's part of. I mean, in a big way, I think it's part of the opioid crisis. I mean, it's kind of a hot topic in the media right now.
And someone told me, someone with the police department, they said we were talking about drugs, and I would assume that people, when they're talking about drugs and we have a drug problem, they're talking about meth, and they're like, it's opiates. Opiates have overtaken the meth problem that we've had in this community.
And it's daunting. I talked about this on 2 or 3 podcasts ago about knowing someone that had that issue, and it's wild because people that are on these opiates, like we could be having a conversation right here and there'd be a lull in it, and they essentially go to sleep. They just
like in one of my shows.
I mean, but I guess they're tripping in their head, you know. Yeah. And I did a lot of research on it. I watched some documentaries. One I always tell people about is a 30 for 30 called Unguarded, about this NBA player who can't play at a Boston Celtics game until he meets his oxy dealer on the corner, and then goes and throws up 28 points.
Whoa.
You know, and it's like it would have been no points, withdrawal. They got to take him to the hospital. He's sweating and can't function. Or I snort this white powder and I go score 28 points in an NBA game. That's got to be part of it. Like, what if somebody? I mean, and not to put you, but if somebody's like, "Hey, Rob, you can play the greatest show of your whole life if you just do that." And I think that people, that's what they get addicted to is. I mean, this guy was saying, I couldn't have scored those points. Yeah. I would have been in a state of withdrawal. I would have been worthless. I would have been like I would have had the flu on the bench.
You always think that doesn't happen. You know, that wouldn't happen to X person, to you, or to, But I think what happens is people, we deal with pain, and we don't deal with it well, especially in this over-medicated society that we live in. That
pain might not even be in a physical sense.
And that's a whole nother level right there. Like if they're dealing with a mental illness or something that has breached beyond the physical,
just even regret.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are just. I'm kind of paraphrasing something somebody said the other day talking about the opiate issue. Is you're a bad day at work or getting fired or a poor life decision away from maybe going down the wrong path.
Yeah,
and it could be your brother, your sister, like you said, it could be anybody.
Right. I think that what I would encourage people to do, like to help them, what helped me. Aside from just being out, in nature and getting to know, like playing your feet on the ground, just real feet, real ground, is music. I mean, if you're gonna have a drug, have something that's not gonna harm you.
I love hearing people that, and I mean, I'm the same way, that talk about music in that same way that you just like. I have a friend like that, and. If you suggested he do something else on the way to work, we work the same. We both work at Morrilton. If you suggest he do something else on the way to work other than listen to his music, he's like, "No, bro, that's just my time. That's right. When I listen to my music, and that's very important to me."
Yeah, absolutely.
And to hear people that it's like that's an instrumental part of their life. I mean, but like I was just lecturing on the Renaissance.
Yeah,
a big part on music.
Yeah,
it's such an inherent part of human culture.
And that's the irony is that. While there's tons and tons of new music every day, and there's tons of the market's oversaturated, but it doesn't make music any less valuable. Now, just because we stopped paying for it, no one has stopped listening to it. It still needs to be made. It's still, because I get to the point, and before I started making this album, I was thinking, this is why put anything out in the world if it's just going to be lost in the white noise of society?
Up in the ether.
Yeah, what's already
I was thinking that about this podcast.
Really?
I felt like I might have got to the game a little late, and I've been wanting to start it for over a year.
Yeah.
And I just finally was like, no, I'm doing it. Saved up about $1,000, got my first initial batch of equipment, added the third mic, just so I could do a 3-person podcast, because there's like a guy coming through, and I've only done one with 3 people, but it started small, and now I'm moving. Like, I'm trying to get to where I don't have to record on the Mac, and then I can take that recorder with me elsewhere. I'm getting a little Tascam.
Well, I heard a lady say one time that she was praying to God, and she's like, should I make another album? She was a musician. She's like, should I even make another album? Because, and she said this bird kept coming and sitting by her in the chair that was empty, and just, just talking, singing. It was pretty, but it was like, okay, I'm praying to God, if you don't mind me, just step away so I can, it kept coming back. And she suddenly realized, it's like, God gave that little bird a voice, and that's his song, and he's sharing it. And that's just.
I'm surprised we haven't heard my dog share his song at least once. We had
this is the song of my people.
A brief conversation before the podcast about his song. So, but I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, everybody. To me, you have a voice, and who knows? I mean, if you think about when entering the digital realm, thousands and thousands of years from now, if the human race is still here, people can still listen to this podcast. They can still hear my music.
We might not be appreciated in our own time.
Maybe, but who knows?
But future time.
The vintage. You guys remember Some Guy Named Robb?
Like, I will say this. I mean, I'm sure you have people have their favorite songs of yours, but like that, like for whatever reason, that song that you wrote, "Burn Me," is like that's burned into my brain.
I played that last night. Yeah,
I love that song. And actually, anytime I've ever seen you play, I requested it.
Yeah.
So it's catchy, man. I really enjoy it. Now, there's other songs I like too. But
no. I love it to hear. I ran into a guy the other day who. He's like, you look familiar. Do I know you? I'm like, my name's Robb. And he's like, oh, Some Guy Named Robb. And he's like, Lord, it feels like I'm running out of time. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, man. I was playing it just this morning. I was all, because, again, as an artist, there's an insecure part of you. It's like, nobody ever listens to my music. And, But when you hear things like that something I released 20 years ago or ish, people still... I'm talking the story I brought up at the first of the podcast, got to be like 13, 14 years ago. Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. That was not Joe Kojawa. It was, that was.
Yeah. There's been another. That was the first inception of it. But, I remember one night you were playing a show out there, and like, I want to say like my high school girlfriend and I had broke up or something. I was super depressed looking probably. And you're like, hey, man, you doing all right? And I was like, yeah, having a little bit of a hard time. I'll get over it or whatever. And you're like, man, hang in there, dude. I'm praying for you. And I was just like, dude, thanks. Like, that made a difference, man. Like, this little things like that you're talking about, kind of like rapport with people and fans and stuff earlier. And I've always remembered that. I don't know why. Just because, I mean, I've only had a few interactions with you. We had at the TV station that one morning. I've seen you around. We live in the same area. I follow you on Facebook. But all the interactions I have would be why I'd be like, man, see if Robb will come on the podcast, because they've always been favorable and
honored to, man. It's it is strange. I wish that people maybe understood how impactful little things are, just like that. And I think sometimes if people knew that, if people just knew, hey, I'm gonna just put my hand on this guy's shoulder and be like, hey, it's gonna be all right. And I'm sure you've done that to 100. Yeah, 100.
It's part
kids,
of it. It seems like it's part of the job. Yeah, and I give back pats.
That's
a
right.
lot.
That's right. And 20 years from now, they're going to be like, "Hey, man, you really helped me out through a hard time." It's just we pay that forward. And I think in the digital age, that where we're all social medias and we're all just kind of, that's how we interact. It's more important now than ever to reach out and be like, "Hey, are you really okay? Are things really all right? Is there something I can help with?"
Yeah, I know. It's wild how I know there's some daunting stats out there on suicide, whether you're talking about certain demographics or whatnot, but more and more I'm seeing people on my Facebook page that their son, daughter, friend, relative, chose to take a different way out.
And it's painful because it seems like it's affecting younger and younger, and I know social media has a part to do that, and it's just, yeah. And my kids are about to be 14 and 12, and they don't have social media, and in my opinion, they don't need social media. They need to be social.
Is that a point of conflict with them?
No, they don't care. They really don't. I've just
good.
raised them like that, and every once in a while, I think my son's like, a couple of my friends are on Instagram and da da da. I'm like, good. That's good. I'm glad they are.
Good for them. little Johnny.
Yeah, but I mean, I've raised my kids. One of the things I did when my kids were young is I would, if they had something, they picked something up from the floor, then I would say, let me see that, and I just hold my hand out, and they would at first reluctantly put it in my hand, and I would take a look at it, and if it was fine, if it was just something that maybe it wasn't theirs, but they could still play with it, wasn't going to hurt anything, then I'd hand it back to them. And if it was something that could hurt them, I'd say, well, this is going to hurt you, so I'm going to take it and put it away. And so what I found is that kind of open rapport has stayed this way. And sometimes, like they'll just bring me stuff, like, Dad, well, someone texted me this and da-da. I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it. So I don't know how my kids are going to turn out, but right now,
yeah, I don't either.
I love
but Corey and I are talking more and more about having kids. Not anytime soon. She's got a fight coming up. She's still competing.
Right.
That's what she's wanting to do right now.
She's fierce.
Yeah, she's scary. She runs a tight ship too, man. I'm telling you. Like, it started off, and I was running this sort of just half-ass like business.
Right.
I had students, and we were doing cool stuff, but weren't paying taxes or anything.
Cora comes cracking the whip.
Oh, she does. And like, I'll be walking in like 2 minutes before my class starts. She's like, yeah.
Well, the only thing that could mess that up is kids, because that will totally wreck your schedule.
Yeah. Well, man, I know. Like today, I didn't have your cell number, and I was like, man, I bet he's sitting at my house where there's no signal and he's not seeing these Facebook messages. Cool. I was so happy because
I was running
out of the ordinary. I was like, well, man, I get done with my class at 9:15. It's 20 minutes home, and then that kid that I was telling you about, he was supposed to do his makeup test today and didn't show up, and I was just like. Yeah. I mean, I hate that. I've only got 1 C in the class right now. We've had our first test, so like I feel good about that, but
that's good.
I feel like I failed him.
You can only do what you can do.
Exactly. I mean, it's not my fault.
No.
Like I was
personal responsibility.
I was grading, and I was just like, how did some of these people miss these?
Right.
Because I actually read the exact test the day before we took it, question for question, told them I felt like I was when we go get our boxing coaches certifications. Yeah. It's like, this is the question. The answer is C. The answer to number 1 is C. They don't even read the choices.
Right. Does anybody know what the answer to this question is? C is the answer. Does anybody know? C.
Yeah. So next time you wonder why amateur boxing's the way it is, it's because all the coaches get together and don't learn anything. We show up in a room once a year and do that.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of mine often jokes, he's like, boxing, the reason it's the way it is because you have $1 billion industry ran by people who get hit in the head too much.
Well,
there's a lot of truth to that, probably.
The truth hurts.
Yeah.
The truth, but it sets us free, so.
Indeed. Man, do you know Eli Craner? He's a local author. He was just on the podcast.
I want to say I know him, but
I might have seen if we're mutual friends or not, but man, he was just on it. He writes about football, but he also writes about like CTE and brain damage. Speaking of boxing,
wow.
And he like works that into his writings. I was mind blown about that. Now, like, do you have any themes that you like to? I mean, that are you feel like are prevalent? I mean, what's your inspiration when you go to write it, like this new album?
Yeah, the new album, The Folkster. What I called it, I had so many different names for this because you can have so much fun with the word folk. You can.
Folkster's a pretty cool word. I mean, I'm already a fan.
Yeah, but so I kind of would do this. I've got 2 albums in mind. I'm always thinking about the next album, the next batch of songs. So the next batch of songs is going to be this electronica and totally different vibe, just like real pumping and just interesting, something like I've never done before. But before I get to that, I want to go as organic, as earthy, as rootsy, just dig into the ground.
Do you do very much full band with this?
Yeah, this is actually going to be a full band. I've got, let's see, I've got a drummer, I have a percussionist, I have a bass player, celloist, I have 2, 3, 4 background singers. It's
Nice.
it's going to sound really, it's going to sound unlike anything I've done before. But my idea is that I'm going to try to shoot for a folk album, but it's going to be like Some Guy Named Robb trips over folk in the middle of the dark and ends up being whatever album comes out, that kind of thing.
I can get behind that.
Right on.
like I said earlier, I don't feel like, I feel like you have pretty genuine sound and the thematic elements within your music that aren't forced, like I said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, love is always, love is like, that's it. Like in the end, what do you do? Love is the answer. Love is all you need. Da, da, da. But I think that's always prevalent in my writings. Well, I did tackle, there's some, how would you say, some political stuff. It's because folk is known for its activism. Folk is known for, it's, and I feel like there is, what's interesting about the kids coming up now, the millennials and the Gen Zs, they are more aware of political stuff than I ever was as a young adult. When I was 18, I think I was like, oh no, I could be registered for the draft. That was what came to mind. Not who am I going to vote for, but I think there's a resurgence of maybe a pride that you can take ownership of the government, that and put people in office that you want to. And
yeah, I felt that way. Like when Obama was elected, the first election, I was just getting to college, and I felt like that was a major theme of that particular election. And since too, it's like I don't think they've closed the box on it. And as we at that time too, also Facebook had just come out,
right.
So we're living in that social media age, and that's like anytime I do anything new with my brand or whatever, I'm always, where am I going to put this? I'm going to put this on this website, and then I'll build a website for this, and this is the branding and marketing side of it. And do you have a website? Yeah,
I do. It's SGNROBB, like Some Guy Named ROBB.com.
Yeah. So I mean,
just
so
Google that,
yeah. So real quick, what's the story on the name Some Guy Named Robb?
Oh, okay. Well, it was 20 years ago, man. There's a wee lad. I was in an Irish pub. Remember Celts in Altus?
Yeah, I've actually played at Celts before, a couple of times. Yeah.
So Celts, was just a little Irish pub in the middle of, or Scottish Irish, just a pub in the middle of
best steak.
And oh my goodness,
sauces.
those Bernays sauce, I can't even talk about. They actually moved. They're in Fort Smith now.
Okay, yeah, I heard something about that.
They are. I've gone to see them and just visit them and say hi, but I haven't actually had a chance to eat in Fort Smith yet. But I'm sure it's Celts.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was playing there, and there was a bartender who he started drinking a little early that day, and the phone rang, and they're like, "Who's playing tonight?" I could hear. I was close enough. I'm probably this far away. And I heard who's playing tonight, and he looked at me and he kind of tilted his head sideways, like, Some Guy Named Robb. And I thought, man, I like that.
It's catchy. I've always remembered it.
It's funny, you know. I mean, it's one of those things where I still get people who calling me up and being like, I got into a fist fight about your name because someone kept asking who was playing. I'm like, Some Guy Named Robb. Like, what's his name? Some Guy Named Robb. So
it's catchy. I mean, that's I almost. Well, we talked about Todd Snyder earlier.
Right.
I feel like a lot of artists will just go, "Oh, I'm Robb McCormick."
Right.
And so it kind of gives you, I don't know, it gives you a little element of surprise.
And I love my last name. I'm not ashamed of it anyway. McCormick, that's associated with spices and like beer or something. There's no shame in that name. I just it's for the same thing. I honestly think you might forget Robb McCormick. It might get tossed in with the Todd Snyder and Ian Moore and those guys. But Some Guy Named Robb, well, that's just interesting.
It sticks.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it did stick. It's stuck for 20 years now.
Yeah. That's
it's so
an iconic name.
It's so funny because I don't want it to end up on my grave.
AKA
I don't have anything to do with my grave once I'm gone, so I imagine someone's going to spray paint.
Yeah, crazed fan. Excellent.
I've had some crazy fans over the years, but
really,
yeah.
Any crazy stories you want to share?
Some stalkers and some stuff. There's some stuff I can't tell you because I'm, just got to keep it PG. But people have put strange things in the tip jar. They've come by. They've like found out where I live, followed me home, kind of thing. And this was before I was married, thankfully. But that kind of stuff.
Weird.
You don't think about it, but people are looking to connect, and then when they do connect, they really connect, and they want to keep that up. But thankfully, nothing ever violent, and I was able to just.
I think about that with the podcast too. I'm always like, should I say that? I mean, because I just like a lot of times I'll refer to people, hey, my friend or my wife Cora, my friend.
Right.
But just recently we got fished on the phone. There's this lady that kept calling, and she would say, hello, my name is Paula. I train at Gracie Baja, Florida. I am a brown belt. Do you have women's classes? And Cora, my lovely wife, would say, yes. Record. Where are you located? Well, we're in Russellville, Arkansas, because they're acting like they're recorded.
Right.
What's your address? I want to come by and check out your facility. Well, we're located at da-da-da-da-da. Record.
Right.
So what they do is they get your voice signature on all of these yes or no questions.
Right.
You saying yes, you saying no, you saying your address, you saying your business name, you saying your name. And they record it and edit it all in. It's like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2. Credit card, you got it. It's that. So they'd use that to steal our business credit card 3 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, is somebody gonna like splice up my audio from a podcast and steal my identity? That would be horrible.
My name is Brian.
Like somebody does that with one of your songs. It's like it cuts the music out.
And what's so crazy is that you could, as many interviews, as many things I've done, as many because I've even shot a podcast every once in a while. Whenever. With musicians, I would just do that. With as much as my voice has been recorded, you could probably make my voice say anything.
I've seen and heard about some technology where you can, and it's still super rudimentary, but like on a talking heads type situation, a CNN interview or something, say you got Obama on there,
right? And
they can superimpose like a different mouth over his mouth and kind of change. So yeah. And that's the rudimentary version of it.
Right. And that it's only going to get more, better as it goes.
Do you think you're going to get driven out by robot musicians?
I laugh, but maybe I shouldn't. There are robots that are making music, already. And,
well, you were just talking about making more of an electronic album.
Right.
Like what kind of, without giving away too much,
No,
I know
that's
we're talking about this album, but Jack White just came out with some super sort of synthetic stuff, like a couple of new releases, and I'm
a child of the 80s, so I grew up listening to the synth pop and the between some synth pop pump, the Eurythmics,
it's on the playlist.
Just everything, and so there's a part of me that's really drawn to that, and I just want to explore that. And the songs I've got, they didn't fit on a folk album, the ones that I've been writing. I've probably written over 1,000 songs, but I've only released maybe however many albums, maybe 80 songs so far. And so to have this, I've plucked these out and like, this is folk. I know it's folk, and it needs to be delivered like folk so people can have it. Then this is electronic. It's more. And so, to explore that and to, as an artist, you just want to keep it fresh too. I don't want to put out the same album that I put out, Everything Is Nothing or that reminds me before I forget. Up Seems So Down, that album that I put out has a song about politics. It's disguised as a love song, but it's called How Was It For Me? And if you get a chance to listen to that one's...
Yeah, no, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's
because fortunately you're easily accessible on Spotify.
That's right. And for 0.003 cents, I will...
Yeah, no, I submitted the podcast to Spotify, but I haven't heard anything back.
Okay.
They just started doing podcasts in the last year or two or something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, keep knocking.
Yeah, I will. Hey,
if it's any consolation, I've been rejected by Pandora twice now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're probably a little different.
I don't
have
like
the paid
that.
version. Yeah.
I don't like that, but it's you kind of have to celebrate the ups and downs.
Well, I'm super impressed. Like, you've been on Spotify for what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah,
now?
and iTunes, Apple Music, and Amazon, all that.
Those places are easier to integrate with.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, I submitted to Spotify, I think, through iTunes, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's good.
Or it might have been Podbean, but like a lot of places, you kind of. You get on their form of media, right. You can kind of network with others, kind of get your foot in the door, so to speak.
And then that's what it's about. Again, making those connections with people that can help you to that next level. Because so much of it is not. We just have to admit the market's flooded. The podcast market, the bloggers are like, yeah.
I'm not even doing a blog anymore.
Are you not? Yeah.
I was
because
this
is actually better though.
I'm doing a vlog. I just did away with my blog for the business, archived it, and I'm going to be doing it. I made Nick Oots made me a custom template for the podcast for thumbnails. Yeah. He made me one for the vlog, so I'm going to be doing both.
That's good.
So.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Musicians put out videos because videos will get more people to watch, and if they watch, then they're listening.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I do. Yeah, it's under. I think it's either SG and Rob or Some Guy Named Robb. So
yeah, that is. I took a class in July on sort of branding through YouTube and the monetization of YouTube. Yeah. And it's something I'm fascinated by because, I mean, I'm not really necessarily trying to. It'd be nice to make my $1,500 or whatever I spent on this equipment a year back, but it's interesting to see how there is a little bit of an, hey, you get 4,000 hours of listening. So somebody listens to 4,000, which is nice on podcasts. They're all an hour, 2 hours. Like we've been going about an hour right now. Yeah. And then it's 10,000 channel views. And it's 1,000 subscribers, and then they start pumping ads in front of your stuff. Right. But so I think why the digital side might be a little different is because I know that like we did have Pandora for a while, but I just like the way Spotify works better for our business and for my personal.
User friendly, really user friendly.
Really, it is, and it integrates. We have a little wireless speakers set up at the gym called Sonos, and the way that app integrates to Spotify is just turnkey.
Oh, the same thing, and I can cast the Spotify to my TV, or I can cast it to, I like that a lot.
But the digital side just seems to be, it just seems to be a different sort of a setup for the audio versus the video for your YouTubes versus your Pandoras. And
well, I've got a friend, Angela Anderson. If you guys are listening, check out Angela Anderson's Fine Art, and she. Local girl, she is a painter, and she does other mediums, but paint is usually what she goes with. She has over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Wow. Yeah. Does she do how-to videos?
Yeah, it's just started. We started just kind of showing, and the next thing you know, she listened to her audience, and that's the most important thing you can do. Listen to your audience. What are people saying? Do they like this? We'll do more of that then. And so that's what she was doing. She just listened and she started doing it. And then she caught that wave of like Facebook Live videos and then this videos and then that. And suddenly, so now she's over 100,000 subscribers. She's got an audience. And what's great about it is I think she's going to, her husband's going to be able to retire, like quit his job in the next 3 years is the plan. So I mean,
I can't remember how much money Joe Rogan makes from podcasting an episode, but it's something super insane, like $100,000.
Yeah,
an episode. He might do like last week. I was feeling super like elitist podcaster, man, because I did 3 in one day. I did like 3 1-hour podcasts in one day, 3 different guests, and the last one was like my buddy Nate and I were both teaching the next day in Little Rock, and he's like comes through at like 10 o'clock and is like, "Hey man, I'm passing through. You want to do that podcast?" I was like, "Let's do it." So we were podcasting until like midnight.
And see, that would have been $300,000 if.
I know, but it was $0, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, and there's just a joy I think too about this conversation. Like I said, it can still be heard 1,000 years from now. Whether or not it'll be for historical purposes or whether or not people just.
Well, and I had fun doing it. Like I tell the people this with So I'm doing some newer stuff right now. I've been out of school for a few years, but I'm teaching a history class and I'm doing this podcast. These are my newer things. I just feel like that's brought me down so much in other areas that I might have been a little hyperactive or, it really toned me down. I don't know, I feel more fulfilled as a person, just like I'm doing more and I'm doing more things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And not just all, you know, because I feel like if I was just doing the gym, I would, this part of the gym stresses me out, or I would, you know, it just gives me, I don't over focus on anything.
Yeah.
You know,
hey man, it's therapy, you know, that's what I'm saying. And then kind of going back to that conversation about self-medication, you know, what a great way to just cathartically work that crap out. I mean, karate, I mean, you know, martial arts, that's a great way to work out
the exercise.
Yeah.
I tell people that all the time. I mean, I get in it. I mean, it's probably you walking up Nebo, which is an incredible climb.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Coming down is really hard on the knees.
I know. I was going to ask you if you were coming down. I won't even run or walk down.
No. Just, up is good, down is hard. And so, yeah. The good thing is when you're walking up Nebo 6 times a week, you can eat anything you want. You still lose weight.
That is true. Yeah, somebody the other day at the gym was like, hey, man, you know, I'm thinking about getting on the keto diet. And I was like, I can tell you about that, you know, And they're like, do you do it? And I was like, no, I had donuts this morning. Like, no, I'm not doing anything now.
Move is the answer.
I'm working out like 3 times a day.
That's right.
But I haven't been super strictly dieting. Cora has, because she is cutting weight for a fight. And I'm just like, whenever our fights are over, she cooks like burritos and stuff again.
That's right.
It's so good.
You know, one thing I was going to tell you about that's coming up on the album is called "The Sinking of the USS America," and it's symbolism in that I'm talking about a man who, he says the first line is, "I was safe on that lifeboat when I jumped back overboard," and basically climbs back up on the ship. He goes up to first class and he looks around. He sees that nobody gives a crap that the ship is kind of lilting to the left. Nobody's concerned about that at all, because they're first class, you know. Girls are still dancing for tips, and the band is playing "Superstition" by Little Stevie Wonder, you know, and everybody's happy. And then this guy calls out, I'm the voice of reason. I'm like, hey guys, ship's going down, you know, but we could still get out if we leave right now. No one looks around, nobody says anything. So I go down to second class. And second class is they're gathering up all their gadgets. They heard the alarms and they Facebooked and they tweeted and they blabbed it, you know. But they're really kind of distracted. Like the whole thing is like, you know, they know what's going on, but I got to take care of all my stuff and my things and all that. And so the last verse, or the third verse, it says, I went down to third class and I found a little girl who was crying. I said, it's going to be okay. Just tell me who your parents are and we'll find them. And she said, last time I checked, they were up to their necks. Said to go on without them and climb to higher decks. Save yourself, they said. We don't even speak the language. Then they closed and locked the cabin doors, saying no one but Jesus could save them. And I tell her the same thing I told the ones upstairs, like, hey, we're all going down, but we might still make it out if we leave right now. You know, and so she looked around, and she's the only one that acts. So take her hand, we go to the top of the boat, we jump into the sea, and we look around just in time to see the big ship headed south. The captain, the crew, the passengers, you know, are all with it. And first of all, I've always been enamored by a sinking ship anyway, like from Titanic, way back in the day. But
I won't even get on a boat, man.
It seems
Cora wants
daunting.
to go on a cruise.
Seems like, daunting, right? Yeah, just watch the Poseidon Adventure with her. You know, that new version of it.
Yeah.
You're like, that's what happens. You go on a cruise. Do you want to live? All right, let's stay on land. But you know, in the end of it, though, is basically saying it's not. I wouldn't, you know, leave because I love America and I love the opportunities it's afforded. I love the freedom of the fact that we don't have bombs going off in the street like some places do. You know, we don't have a lot of things going on. We have a lot of positives. We have police officers that, for the most part, are really just trying to help. They're just trying to, like, you know.
A police buddy of mine said that they see people on the worst day of their lives,
right,
at the worst moment,
right,
typically.
Right. And that's it. And that could be any of us. Any of us could have a really bad day. I was on the front page of the paper last Thursday, right? And which is great. I was honored. But next to me was a guy who had been arrested. It said arrested the 12th or 13th consecutive time. And I thought to myself, you know, and I'm praying, man. I believe in God, you know. And I just thought, the only difference between him and me, you know, are some life choices. And I easily could have been that guy.
Me too, man.
You know?
I tell people that all the time. I feel like I didn't get any of my stuff together until I was about 23 years old.
Yeah.
Which they say
that's the
theoretically
way.
is when your prefrontal cortex is finally formed.
I'm telling you, man, because I was an idiot up until about 20.
That thing formed earlier.
I'm going to need mine formed earlier, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I made some stupid decisions.
Regrettable decisions, yeah.
You know, and that's it. I've been talking and learning and thinking a lot about regret.
Yeah.
And how that impacts people and how people live with it and process it. And regret is one of those single most things I see leads people down. I mean, like I remember doing some things in my earlier 20s and late teens that I regretted, and just like thinking to myself, like, oh, this is, if I would have known that this would, I would not have, that this would have been the outcome, that I would have walked around feeling this way.
Right.
I would have never made those decisions, whatever they were. You know?
And I think that if you don't deal with regret, it becomes that little piece of decay that starts to rot everything else away. And I think for me, it's, you know, it's not religion at all, but it is a relationship. You know, it's Christ for me. It's like, okay, can I be forgiven for the things that I've done? And I hear an answer from God say, yeah. And then I'm like, well, are you sure? Because I've done some, just in my mind anyway, you know, I've done horrible things. I was just terrible at relationships, and then I was cheating and all that kind of stuff. And you know, can I be forgiven for that stuff? And then he points to the Bible. It's like, this person did the same thing and worse. And I forgave them, and I love them. So, yeah, I can love you too. So to me, you know, that's going to be the answer for people that are dealing with the regret, is to know that in real life, you have a real God, a real Father that loves you. And in a world that's growing up with a bunch of wounds and a bunch of fatherless homes, I think they need to hear that.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a guy that I follow a little bit named Stephen Molyneux.
Yeah.
He's on like NPR. NPR, is it NPR? Is that the free? He's out of Canada. He's on the free. They have lots of podcasts and stuff. I don't know if it's NPR, but
yeah.
I can't remember. I feel like it's some sort of little abbreviated term like that. But he talks about how when kids grow up without a dad in the household,
Yeah.
How they like lack empathy.
Right.
And I could see that. And he talks about how if you have like a very strict parent, or you have a very overbearing mother, or a parent that pays no attention to you even though they're there,
Yeah.
and how that affects different children growing up. And he's always talking like every time I have somebody on the podcast or has kids, I'm always asking them pointed questions or like your parental advice. I'm like,
yeah, just write it down.
Just take it, look at it, and apply that later.
Right. Was this right, or was it?
Yeah, but
there is, in the psychology behind that, you know, in what I've seen is that people that have the father wounds, they have a hard time with the ideology that there could be a God that loves them, and the same thing with mothers. If they had a great father, chances are they're going to be able to connect with that idea, and if they had a great mother, they can connect with the Holy Spirit a little bit better. That's what I've seen. So.
Yeah, what do you tell people that are like that? Just focus more on their faith,
if they're wounded.
Yeah,
well, admit that there's a wound, and that's number one. But then, I think you can just go through life counting all your wounds, you know, licking all your wounds, and if you lick it, you're never gonna let it heal. You know, I think you just have to let some crap heal. Now, there's sometimes the wound is so deep. Just like the flesh wound, you know, if a wound is so deep, the problem is still inside. It's causing, you know, it's something festering. So sometimes you got to rip that thing open. You got to let oxygen in, and oxygen's what starts to heal. So you got a hyperbaric wound, for example, you know, that you have to let that thing heal from the inside out. It's so deep. And, you know, I would say there's nothing wrong with going to a counselor, nothing wrong with talking to somebody, a trusted friend, somebody who's wiser, older, mentor, maybe somebody who's gone through that stuff. Nothing wrong with that. There's no
I think
shame
that's super
in that.
important. I've over the years and am constantly trying to surround myself with the right kind of people that I can lean on or ask advice to. Or like there's one particular friend of mine. He's actually one of my coaches in my wedding, and I like periodically I'll call him and be like, man, I'm sorry you always have to help me through my crap, but I got this life problem and here it is, you know, and he's always there for me, you know.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome having people like that, and it's whether it's been in my academics or martial arts or whatever. It's I've been very fortunate to have some people that have been super influential, steering me in the right direction.
Well, and I think if a lot of times we just feel alone in our problems. We're like, we're the only people who've ever had this problem. Nobody else could even know what we're talking about.
And there's a whole community of people with the same problem.
Yeah, exactly. And you can pick the problem. I guarantee you there's people that, have.
So we kind of touched on the substance abuse thing, and I was debating on whether or not to bring this up on this podcast, but it just seems to be current events, and nor do I want to get into too many political conversations. But man, this mass shooting yesterday.
I just found out about it.
I mean, I was reading about it before class. I got to the university an hour early this morning, and I was reading some articles, and in the article, the first thing that popped up when I Googled it was 18 mass shootings in the United States since 2018. And we're like 40-something days into the year. And some of them, I looked up the actual stats, and some of them are like, drive-by shootings and, 3 people wounded.
Right. Are they including Chicago? Because,
some of it was that.
Yeah.
So they were, so the 18 number seemed to be a little bit of a clickbait.
Right.
But, man.
But there's a legitimacy that we have a recurring problem.
And is that people seem to say it's a mental health problem. And I don't know. I don't know answers. I don't know causes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna join you on the I don't know page. I'll say this. I saw this meme one time that was with Anakin, Skywalker. Of course, I'm a Star Wars nerd, so this is Star Wars.
Hayden Christensen version, or the one that actually had a mental health problem, little Annie.
Oh, that's right, he did, didn't he?
Poor guy.
That. But no, he's holding the lightsaber, and the younglings are there, and he's just about to kill the younglings, right? And
yes.
And the meme says, "Nobody blamed the lightsaber."
Oh, that I've seen that meme. That is
so. It's one of those things where, to a degree, there is a personal responsibility. For whoever chose to pick up the gun and premeditate these things. I don't think that is a health issue. Now, is it systemic of mental health issues? Obviously. But I think we're all kind of screwed up in some way or another.
When there's not I don't feel like there's a chemical Band-Aid that is like...
No, I'm not. Psychotropic
for
drugs.
Everybody, man, I just don't feel like it. Okay, you're depressed, Rob. Like,
here's the
there you go. You can take this pill, but I do feel like that pill may work,
right,
in a small percentage of people.
Well, and psychopharmacology is still, in my opinion, in its infancy. I
Agreed.
We don't know. I've seen people who have they've had success on it and never had another problem with psychotropic medicine. I've seen people who have had success for a while and then it not work. I've seen people literally go mad because it messed
was
with
not
it
what they needed
too much. Yeah. So I mean, for me, when I hear about these gun things, I think I'm not against, when it comes to people say stricter gun laws. I think I'm not against a person having a mental health checkup, but when I say that, I think
does that open a Pandora's box? Doesn't
it? Because whenever you start doing that, it's like, who's allowed to make these judgments? Eventually, the government is going to come in and make those judgments.
I kind of feel that way on. I have a concealed carry. I probably won't even get it renewed after my next. I could be. I've had my piece on and been walking across the mat at the gym. Somebody grabbed my leg. Hey, Brad! No. And I'm like, dude, I'm wearing sweatpants right now. I'm not wearing my belt or anything. I have a gun. And it's like right by your face. And dude, like people, you mess with your buddy, and he's like, whoa,
wait,
I'm sorry,
guys.
But I don't even think mandating. It's like I don't have time to go to the range. I've been shooting since I was a kid. I'm a poorer shot with a handgun than I am with a rifle. And I mean, we're doing this podcast at my house. It's not off the grid by any sense of the means, but we're peacefully located in this little holler, as we'd call it.
Holler.
But I would want. I have like for example, in my bedroom, I have a .22 Magnum with a scope on it.
Yeah.
Somebody breaks into the house, I can't use that.
Right.
And so people want AR-15s and stuff to get banned or more control over. But I'm like, well, that would be the one gun I would want to clear my house at night.
Right.
You know, if I hear a loud crash,
Right.
and I got to get up, it's like one of my coaches has an AR, and it's got a night vision and a flashlight, and I mean he's on the SWAT team and stuff too. But it's like, and that's kind of his thing. Is he's like, man, like you don't just turn the lights on when somebody breaks into your house at night. Like,
yeah.
It's you know, and if you like, a lot of times, like you turn the light on, you can't see into the darkness of the house.
Right.
You're in the lighted room; they can see you perfectly.
Right.
I don't have an answer on any of that, but I've just been thinking about it.
I try to stay open to the possibility that I could be wrong when it comes to these things. You know, I really do. I try to stay open and try to stay humble and think, okay, are they making a point, or are they pushing an agenda or pushing a narrative?
I'm paranoid about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing that this media age of information and misinformation, you know, has kind of garnered all of us. We have to be cautious on what we choose to believe, because who knows what source we're
Well, I think that's what brings in all the shill conspiracy talk on well, this shooting didn't, like with the Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting into any of that. I researched it a fair amount, and nor do I want to go into any of my opinions. That could be its own. I want to do a whole series of these history unravels where I do the history of conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
And start talking about these, like the JFK assassination, just different main conspiracies. You know? But, you know, stuff like that, like, I feel like that mass shooting, I mean, I don't know if you heard about it. I heard about it yesterday, but I immediately just kind of wrote it off.
Well, I think that's kind of the norm now, isn't it? I mean, we hear about
how did we get there?
Man, I think there's a we're just naturally desensitized. You know, we hear that's already happened.
Yeah, I was like, I've already seen this so many times.
It's almost like it's the scroll thing. You know?
Same thing with the Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a reason why people, well, that's, you know, they see Sandy Hook didn't happen, and they just latch onto that, and then they might go down a rabbit hole, and yeah, I've done the same thing, but it doesn't own my life when I do it either. I'm always stacking it up against what I know to be true, historically speaking or otherwise. So.
Well, I think that there's something inherent about us, especially at this age, that we want to question these things. We want to question what we've been told, because we have found out the government has lied to us, you know, and they did do things that were basically illegal and certainly unethical to their own soldiers, you know, exposing them to, you know, LSD, or exposing them to nuclear blast and not really preparing them for it. So, I mean, like, we know that these things have happened, and so we have come to suspect that not everything that we're being fed is going to actually be good for us.
Yeah. There's I believe it was pre-Kennedy. I think it was during the Eisenhower administration, but I tell people about this quite frequently, and it's out there. There's a thing called Operation Northwoods. Have you ever heard about that?
I've heard, but I don't remember what is the...
So it's basically this sort of false flag plan to attack Cuba and make it look like drone airplanes. We're going to get... Cuban citizen refugees or somebody to attack Guantanamo Bay. I mean, it's all this crazy stuff that we had planned to do, and it kind of looked like Bay of Pigs was just a really botched fourth draft version of that.
Wow!
But it was, you know, a few years after the Operation Northwoods was presented. I believe it was they went to Eisenhower and pitched it to him, and he was like, "You guys are crazy, the CIA."
Right.
But there's I was watching, I didn't get into it. James Franco did some show about JFK where he was like a time traveler or something.
I don't think I saw it. I've seen the advertisements.
Yeah, I saw advertisements, and I was like, I want to watch this. And I watched like the first episode. But they kind of play on that. There's like a CIA meeting, and they're like, this Kennedy dude's not going to do what we want, so we got to take it. So like people really sink their teeth into these conspiracies based off of this other true fact. Like, hey, this is verifiable. It becomes
a religion for some people. I mean, they really... It's like the flat Earth thing going on right now.
Big time, yeah.
Big time. So, I mean, I've got some smart, intellectual, educated people, friends of mine, and they're like, well, here's why the Earth is flat. And so I'm like, I'm going to look into this, because I stay humble.
I've looked into it.
Stay humble. Maybe I'm wrong, because I don't know. I mean,
you know what daunts me about all that? I'm not saying the Earth is flat at all, but man, they those flat earthers do come at it from a totally. They're like, we're not here to convince you the earth is flat. We're here to convince you it's not round. And like they work from that point of view. And then I'm like, there's no way it's Helios. You know, and it's
for real though.
The issue is like, I'm not a scientist.
Right.
I want to have some physicists and scientists on the podcast to benefit from their knowledge without having to. I mean, I made an A in college biology, and I think I made an A in physical science too. But man, that's not the same, you know. And I am not intelligent enough or understanding enough to say things whether or not space travel is possible or landing rockets like the Elon Musk thing. I don't know.
I have to admit though, if I mean, again, I have to say if because I don't know, I wasn't there, but it seemed real, and I was really impressed. They brought those rockets back.
Wow!
I mean, it's like the first one. That's smart. You're not wasting, and they're not just falling in the ocean. You know.
I know.
Yeah, that's just smart. Bring them back and reuse them. But I after looking into it and after talking to some really physicists and people that are smarter than me, I came to the conclusion that I'm pretty sure the Earth's round.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I'm with it too. It's like that. My thing is like, well, you haven't proven to me that it's flat. You've offered some good. You've poked some good holes in like the mast over the hull of a ship sailing away. You can get a nice little telescope that didn't exist in the scientific revolution. And be like, oh, well, I can still see the whole ship. Right. Even though you can't see, all you can see is the sail.
You can't. And there's some really good information out there that's just like, this is why the Earth is not flat.
I love all the celebrities that think it's flat.
I haven't even looked at
Shaquille O'Neal, bro.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
He's really tall. He should be able to see.
I know. And like, there's an interview.
There's no curve.
And he's like, so you mean to tell me, you think I start digging, I'm going to reach China? and the interview was just like,
technically, if you started digging, he would reach the Indian Ocean. That's on the other side of
yeah.
And then he'd flood this place. So don't Shaquille, just don't
do it. I remember I saw him on a late night show one time or something, and he poured like he took his shoe, like his basketball shoe, and poured like 2 cans of Coke in it or something, and it didn't even fill up. Like it was as they were talking about how big his foot was.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean it might have been more than that, but I was just like, man, this dude.
That dude is a Nephilim. He's like half.
Yeah.
Angel half.
You know, a lot of people don't know what Nephilim means or are, but this is a topic I'm fascinated by too.
Oh yeah,
honestly,
man.
Book of Enoch.
Yeah. Like the first book of Ezekiel. It sounds like a spaceship.
Yes.
You know, it's describing the throne of God. It sounds like a spaceship.
I made a joke. I know. And you know, like when I was a little boy, my dad reading to me out of the Bible and stuff. Yeah. I kind of like. I'm like, oh well, heaven is you know, it's like going to Neverland. Like you're going past the star. You know, it's like outer space.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, no, you know, let me explain it to you a little differently. But I made a joke about my buddy. He loves ancient aliens. Yeah. And he loves thinking about those things.
Oh, my goodness.
A little bit of
I mean, look at the pyramids, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm fascinated by these ice pyramids they're finding in Antarctica.
No, that's interesting. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. I just got it on my radar a couple years ago, but they apparently just found another one. Also, have you been following how just a few weeks ago they found it a long time ago, but I guess they kind of deciphered it. It was like a cube of some kind. No. And it had all of this writing on it.
It's a tesseract.
It's an infinity stone. It had more advanced calculus on it than we know today.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, honestly, and if you look at how big the sea is, I mean, like just how big the ocean is. It almost covers entirely one half of our planet. Of course, overall, 75% or 70% of our planet is water. If I were going to hide something, I'd put it in the water.
Yes.
And I'd cover it up with a lot of sand. And then, you know, I was just thinking, there's just no telling.
Well, yeah, Abu Qir Bay, off of the... right outside of Cairo is this bay called Abu Qir Bay. And it's actually the bay that Napoleon sailed into when he went to Egypt and found the Rosetta Stone.
Oh, neat.
So I'm also fascinated, too. I've been researching this about why we robbed all the obelisks from Egypt and put them all over Europe and even in the United States. Mm. Yeah, like the actual obelisk. Like I saw a video of how they raised one of them up. And I'm like, well, how'd you raise it up in Egypt thousands of years ago?
Exactly.
But so there's a guy that I've been following named John Anthony West. He actually just passed away like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
But he's an Egyptologist, and he talks about his views on Egypt are wild.
I have to check John Anthony West.
John Anthony West. He's been on Joe Rogan twice, once within the last year or so. But he just passed away. That's how.
Well, I think about. Like, I watched a documentary, and this guy was talking about the pyramids. He's like, this wasn't built by slaves. He said, whoever told you that? This was a labor of love, and it was a labor of architectural genius. Yeah, and it's like, okay.
The alignment with the
the 0.3 decimal, like it's almost perfectly aligned with the star, or with something, I forget.
I guess it's there's some links there, and I'm still learning all this, like the precession of the equinox.
Yeah.
Like the wobble of the earth, and that's like John Anthony West is all into that. Yeah. And it talks about that. Another guy that he is along his lines, and like the back to the Abu Qir Bay thing is there's sphinxes and things in the Nile,
right,
that have been underwater for who knows how long.
Right.
It's like rivers move and change,
right,
and there's enough stuff on the bottom of the ocean, in the Med, in the Nile, elsewhere, that proves that there's these ancient civilizations we know nothing about. And John Anthony West and Graham Hancock have been these two people that are ousted by like the Egyptology community. And like John Anthony West is one of the guys that's like, hey, this Sphinx, due to I've got my geology buddy with me, and he's telling me that due to the erosion here on this Sphinx, it is thousands of years older than you're telling people it is. And they're like, oh, this guy, where are these ancient civilizations? Where are they? Right. But these guys have done enough research, writing, and Graham Hancock has actually done ocean dives.
Right.
And has gone on Joe Rogan several times, talked about it, and I'm fascinated by it.
This is why we should remain humble. Like when it comes, and all this carbon dating, and this had to be this many billion years ago. Well, first of all, we don't know.
That's your interpretation.
And that's just it. We don't know. The theory of evolution and this, it's like, these theories are fine to have because it's all speculatory. But when we start treating them like laws, when we start treating them like, this is the end-all fact and you're a fool.
Same thing with what's going on in the media right now.
Exactly.
It's like with the whole, and not to get too much into that, we keep bringing up some controversial talk.
Do
the
it.
Whole Me Too.
I love controversial.
I mean, yeah, we've hit on, we're in the zeitgeist right now.
Do it.
But with the whole Me Too thing, it's like these allegations are being printed as fact. Mm-hmm. And I tell people, my historical area of expertise is in what they call U.S. history too. Yeah. So like Reconstruction, post-Civil War to now. And man, it's just during that time you had McCarthyism. So it's like, hey, Rob, you're communist, and you're never going to be able to play music again because I told everyone that.
That's right.
And I kind of feel like there's going to be some casualties on this whole movement, which I think that there are issues.
There's obviously. I mean, there's, and for that, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that for the victims that truly were victimized.
Me too.
I'm glad that they have a voice. I'm glad they have a movement. I'm behind that. I've always been an advocate for for women to be able to be free, to be safe. I want that for my daughter. I want it for my wife. I want it for
not to just be an object.
Yeah, absolutely. But I am absolutely with you in that this is with social media being what it is now, it's at its peak, and you point the finger and the accusation, it stains in people's minds. Kevin Spacey, I don't know. I'm sure he'll recover. People tend to forgive their celebrities. They didn't like
Louis C.K.
Yeah, Louis C.K.
And there's the Harvey Weinstein thing, and
Harvey Weinstein. Something tells me
Steven Seagal.
There's too many different people that accuse Harvey Weinstein.
So like that, what got me thinking is like somebody came out and they're like Dustin Hoffman, and I was like, no, you can't have Dustin Hoffman.
The Graduate.
Yeah, I got the Hook.
The Rain Man. Hook. Yes. I can't watch Hook without crying. Such a good movie.
I know, but I would hate that if
who was it that it was? Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah.
No, so this, first of all, I still have a hard time believing. And now I'm not. Did women throw themselves at Bill Cosby? Of course they did, because he's Bill Cosby.
He's hilarious.
And he's hilarious, and he's rich, funny, successful. But at what level are we talking about? Like, did he do something wrong, or did they do something wrong? And that's, to me,
I know. Yeah. That's the issue with like the Hoffman thing and stuff, is like some of these, like with the Weinstein thing, Steven Seagal thing, it's like similar accounts and similar stories from multiple people.
Right.
But with the like the Dustin Hoffman thing, or maybe even, and I know more stuff's come out about Kevin Spacey, but it's like, in 1983, on this one movie on Tuesday,
right,
you said and did these things.
Remember when you touched my hiney? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say this, it's like, I didn't really like it, but Cora has a theater degree. She's acted a ton. Dan Stahl, I'm trying to have him on the podcast. He's one of the first people who taught me anything about the guitar.
Yeah.
So gave me a few lessons when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But she acted all through high school and college. Mm-hmm. And she was in a Shakespeare play, and we've been together like 3 years, and she had to kiss some dude. And I'm just like, it's part of it, whatever. Right. I don't really like it. But and it wasn't like I wasn't jacked up about it. I knew it was a real thing, and I could write it off. But I feel like some of that goes on at rehearsals and sets a little bit too. And
yeah, I mean, of course, I've worked on a couple of plays before whenever I was younger, and you become a family. I mean, you get to know each other, and
there's a comfort level.
Comfortable, exactly. And I think that, what do you do with your family? You joke around and you do things like that. And so I think
you don't get them to watch you take a shower.
No, was that one of the?
Seems to be. That was one of those Weinstein stories I heard of from.
I want you to watch me take a shower.
But here's another thing too. The problem, and even Cora says this, and I mean, so people can hate on it if they want, but it's like, I know with him, I feel like that there's some wrongdoings there for sure. Like, I'm not a fan.
He abused his
position of power.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, hey, Rob, you want to come on the podcast? No, I don't really feel comfortable going over there talking about all that controversial stuff on the air with you.
Right. I don't want to go to your home, to one of your bedrooms, and
and then and then you're like, well, I'm going to go with you anyway, even though I'm not comfortable.
Exactly.
And
by the way, I actually said something like this on Facebook. I presented that that they got stardom out of their relationship with them. So, and it was ferociously attacked. The people, certain people, did not like what I had. I said.
Yeah, I've talked to a fair amount of women, so I've asked a lot of women's opinion on this, and just with the Ashley Judd situation, because she's been really vocal about it, and. I don't know where I fall on the spectrum. I think that I would never want Cora to be harassed in that way. I'm sure you say the same thing about your wife, your daughter. But it's like, no one made you go over there. Well, and that's my only problem with it.
And my thought is, and again, maybe we're two men talking about this, so I'm sure a lot of women would just say, shut up, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, I think that if something can come out of this, it's really good, really positive. I hope that it's that women feel empowered not to wait from 1983 until 2017. I'd rather say this happened.
Well, that's why there are
statutes
of limitations.
Well, and this happened 2 days ago. I mean, I understand if the person needs some time to think about it and test it, like, was this right? Was this wrong? But at the same time, oh my goodness. It ruins people, and I protect myself. Like when I was teaching guitar, I taught some guitar students and stuff like that. If it was a female that was going to be in my class, just one-on-one class, I would leave the door open. I would always make sure there's somebody else inside the music center.
And I've thought about that on like having female guests on the podcast.
Yeah.
Just in like, because I don't have anyone else in the room. And it's like, I'm just like, well, I'm just going to make sure Cora's here.
Yeah,
that way they feel super
there.
comfortable.
Exactly.
And I might even have her, like, because I mean, most of the women I'm going to have on will be people she knows too. Yeah. Like I'm going to have Josh Wilson's wife on at some point, and then a folklorist who trains at the gym. She's boxes and stuff. But how many folklorists?
Well, I feel like not many, not enough.
Yes,
I feel like if we safeguard ourselves, I mean, first of all, the number one thing is just that we're not going to do it. I'm going to respect my marriage, and I'm going to respect that person, and I'm going to respect the fact that You know, I mean, that's just not how people do it. We don't do that.
It's not, I mean, for I guess a cliche way to say, it's not the measure of my kind of man.
Right.
You know, as somebody that's gonna. There's no integrity there.
Right.
You know, I've been thinking about integrity a lot lately, and it's like, never. You know, it's who I am when I'm in this room and there's nobody here.
But to safeguard ourselves is wisdom too, and to say, okay, Corey is going to be here whenever you do those. You know, that way, it's going to be. Everything legitimate, you know, and everything's gonna be recorded in here, and you got a video, so like everything is legit. I feel the same thing. I guard myself. I guard myself whenever I'm out playing, you know. And one thing is, I want my wife to know that what I'm doing is a job, and she knows it. She sees it.
Yeah.
You know, she sees it. And for 20 years,
Corey's a little bit the same way about me teaching, because I teach all these college girls now. It's mostly girls in my class.
Yeah.
And you know, I never would I ever want to do or say or be in a situation which would make her. And at the same time, I don't feel like there is any jealousy. I feel like that doesn't exist. But never would I want to be in a situation like I've had. So you said you had situations come up playing. I've had situations come up at the gym over the years where, you know, not to go anything, keep it PG rated, but it's like, you know, you get a message from somebody who's a single mom, kids trying their late one night, and. You know, next thing you know, it's like, Cor, wake up. I didn't say anything. Yes. I just, you know, and
I've done that. When I get, you know, when in the past people they text things that they shouldn't. You know, it's usually that late night thing someone's with, and I just go and I'm like, here you go. How should we respond to this? Let's do it together. Because I'm not even going to, and that's something I've even warned my kids about. You know, because now there's been this thing at the high school with, you know, pictures being shared and that kind of thing. And I'm like, listen, if anybody sends you a picture of themselves, especially, like, you know, we're going to take your phone and don't do anything, don't respond. We're going to take your phone and take it to the police, because that's child pornography. If somebody under the age of 7 or 18 does that, then we're not going to be, you know, we're not going to jail on this, you know, because we're not going to have we're just like, boom, you know, clear it out.
Here's a crazy story on the flip side of that. This guy, this is a real, I want to say it happened in Arkansas. Yeah. Like, I want to say that the guy I mentioned earlier, one of my coaches on the SWAT team, he told me this story. And I want to say he was telling it from firsthand experience, or an officer he knew had encountered it. So this dad thinks his son is smoking meth in the bathroom. So apparently that's the place to go when you want to smoke some meth and you're a teenager living with your mom and dad. You do it in the bathroom. Maybe there was a window. I don't know. But he's like, I know he's smoking meth in there. So, like, I want to say he might even have reached out to the cops. They're like, look, unless you can catch him doing it, we can't really do anything.
Right.
You know, he's like, so he thinks about it. And then he's like, goes back to him. He's like, look, I caught my son smoking meth. He was in the bathroom smoking meth. I got him on camera. And they're like, you're arrested. Because you can't record your son in the bathroom smoking meth.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so maybe while he was smoking, he was taking a leak or something too, but it was the same thing. It was child pornography.
So how did they?
I don't know what the final decision was, but I was just like, he was just like, listen to this crazy story. You know, total innocence, really. You know,
well,
I guess.
mean, the guy was trying to help he was trying to help his son. He was trying to let the police know that this is going on. They can, there's different ways to handle that, but I wouldn't say recording somebody in the bathroom is the right answer.
Man, I know, right? So
that's tough, though.
How do you deal with some of that stuff?
I don't know. Thankfully, I haven't had to mess with any kind of meth in the bathroom stuff. That's.
I know, right?
You know, my dad was so cool with me. He's like, listen, you know, if you want to drink, come home and drink, you know. And he smoked, and he hated the fact that he smoked, you know. And he's just like, you know, just don't ever start, you know. So I never started. And with drugs, he was real straightforward. He's like, if I ever catch you doing drugs, I will beat you within an inch of your life. And I believed him. So I just never messed with it. It's like, I still think he'd do it. You know, he's 70-something years old. And I still think if I'm like, hey, Dad, I found a drug.
What'd you say?
Did you not hear what I said 50 years ago? I was over 50, but yeah. But, you know, I mean, I think just talking to your kids about that stuff, that might be the first round.
You know, opening the lines of communication, you know, and then, too, like, I've had different people I know that have handled it this way, be like, hey, you know, no drugs. If you are going to do drugs, like, and you just decided to go against all my wishes, like please don't do them over here out in town with your friends. Like if you want to smoke a joint, we'll see if we can make that happen for you here at the house where you're totally safe. You want to experiment, you're 17 years or whatever, you know, and I'm not saying I know anybody's done that, but I've heard of like parents dealing with it that way versus like the kid turning into some, shady, sneaky, going around behind mom's back, coming home with the bloodshot eyes and, having to watch. I mean, I've seen that.
Freezing his room. But I think that, I was in Colorado. We try to do a tour out through New Mexico and Colorado and all that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go to Colorado in a couple of months.
Sweet.
Man. So I'm Freeze McGee's
Which
playing
part?
at the Red Rocks, Denver.
Denver, Morrison, awesome. But out there, it's legal. It's the strangest thing to walk into what we call a head shop, and they call it a pharmacy or
dispensary or whatever.
Dispensary, right. And when the first year that they passed it, we went up there, and there were these, how the Red Cross has the Red Cross? There were these green crosses everywhere. And we're like, what is that? I mean, they were everywhere. And then finally we looked at one of the signs that said, top shelf stuff sold here. I'm like, that's the dispensary. And so I had to go in because I wanted to see what it was like. And when I went out, I was just like, I come from Arkansas, and you guys, everybody in here would be arrested right now if you were in Arkansas.
Man, we went to one, and they're like, dudes, Rick Rubin just left. And I was like, what?
Rick Rubin.
Yeah, and when we walked in, there was like a handful of construction workers next door to the gas station. We walked in, they were working. We walked out, they were all smoking a tube. It was just like a part of the culture everywhere you turned around.
There are people who say just legalize everything. There's some things I think that they don't mean that, but I think that when it comes to drugs, legalize everything and just see what happens. And there's a part of me like that voyeuristic, I wonder what would happen if...
I know. Would crime go down? Would it go up?
Yeah, would it? I mean, it can and tax the crap out of it. Yeah, you want meth, you're going to pay for it.
Marlboro Greens.
Marlboro Greens.
That's apparently a concept, man. They're trying to figure out how they're going to do the carcinogen laced pharmaceutical marijuana cigarettes.
They have to put like 7,000 chemicals in it first, so they can get that high. But
yeah. So, I mean, do you have a stance on recreational, medical, CBD, cannabis, either one?
When it comes to recreational, I'm against it personally. I don't use. That's just not for me. I've got to maintain focus and clarity. Like in my mind, I need to be, because I've got thousands of songs that I need to recall. I've got tons of lyrics. I've got all these things that I have to do. I've got to drive home after a show, and I've just, to me, it's clarity is the most important instrument that I can use in that. So I don't really think it's going to cloud that. I'm against ibuprofen and Advil. I mean, I'm against as much as I can when it comes to that stuff.
I will not take antibiotics if I can avoid it.
Exactly, because you're tearing up all the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. Now, if it has to be done, then I'll do it. Like if it has to, but people run to the pharmacy and get a Z-Pack every time they got a sniffle, and it's just building up immunity toward it. Right?
Exactly.
So, but no, when it comes to, as a matter of fact, the last time I had to get that, I was down at Gulf Shores, stepped on something in the ocean, and it got infected. And my wife's a nurse, so I woke her up, and I'm like, "Is this like normal?" Because it left from my pinky toe, and it started crawling up my foot. And I'm just like, I think that maybe I've got a blood infection. And she's like, that is a blood infection. Yes, you need to get, And so I went in, they gave me a steroid.
That can take you out, man.
Yeah. Like the doctor told me, she's like, the reason it was going up your leg because it was crawling toward your heart. That's, it was trying to kill you. And so
that's wild.
That was the last time I did, and that was 5.
That's the first time I knew that I had a blood infection. I had to get helicoptered out.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean that's all I know about blood. Like they went on a little canoe trip, and like as soon as they put in the buffalo, they were like, "Oh, dude, this dude's dying. We got to get him out now."
Yeah.
So
well, thankfully it didn't go that fast.
Yeah.
But we were down there. That ship that's down this dock, the Alabama, USS Alabama, was down there. So I was so excited about seeing this, and I'm getting there, and all of a sudden I'm out of breath. I'm like, what is wrong with me? This isn't like me at all. I thought maybe I was having some kind of, I don't know what it was, because I'd never experienced it before. But I just sat down, I drank lots of water, I tried to figure out what was going on, and I did not get to enjoy I want to go back to the USS Alabama and walk through it like a normal person, because I was so looking forward to seeing what it was like on the inside of the ship, but I was just like,
Oh, I imagine. Man.
Anyway, by the time I got back, though, we realized what it was, and thankfully, that was the last time. But as far as what your original question was, when it comes to cannabis and that kind of stuff, medicinally, I am 100% for candidates. I'm for cannabis and for CBD and all these things because I've seen it work in people.
I know, it blows my mind.
Yes,
particularly with the CBD, and the oils, and
yes,
but
I mean,
like
people
what you're saying
that
with the psychoactive side, I don't really have views between the two or differentiating, but it seems a lot of people have like my dad, for example, he's would never accept cannabis ever. But he's like, yeah, tell me about the CBD.
Right.
Because it doesn't have the psychoactive properties.
Right.
So, and like what you're saying, you're like, well, I want to say clear. I actually just, ironically, for the first time, talked to a real-life Scientologist.
Really?
Yeah. Like, which I've watched a lot of documentaries out there, done some research, but never have I known anyone. And like I brought up kind of like, I was like, yeah, I watched Going Clear again the other night, and he's just like, oh, yeah, cool. And then I was like, man, I was reading about Aleister Crowley and Led Zeppelin this morning, and L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology, he studied with Aleister Crowley, and he's like, cool. And it was just like...
When you trace the roots back, it's something.
It is something.
I tend to not trust religions made in the 1960s,
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of weird linkages, like I said, between Crowley and the occult, and even the Manson murders.
Yeah,
I mean, it's weird, but yeah, it's and too. So like them becoming, and I don't know both sides of it. He did give me some resources, like, hey, you saw the bad side,
right?
Like, just see what you think about this. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that, just to not be a biased a-hole about it.
It's good. And hey, I love studying religions, man.
I do too. I was super close to getting a minor in world religions.
Really?
I had minor in philosophy. I've taken a lot of classes, done special problems on it. And
well, my philosophy has always been with religions, it's like, if it doesn't change you, if it doesn't move you to the point where like, I need to start following a Hindu god, or if I need to start following, if it doesn't change you, it's only going to make you stronger in what you believe. So why not open yourself up to understanding how other people view God and view the world?
Yeah,
and I think,
indeed.
And that's not something that Arkansans are renowned for. We're like in the Bible Belt, and
I know
it is what it is, and there's no questioning. And that's why the idea, and I think this is maybe an older generation. The younger generation is kind of coming to this point where now they're like, well, is it possible that this Big Bang Theory that everyone talks about, that no one has any idea how it came, that this is actually when God opened his mouth, and this, because I do love the scientists that try to explain, okay, there's absolutely nothing there, absolutely nothing, and then all this heat and all this pressure. Wait, there's no heat and pressure if there's absolutely nothing. There's just
where
nothing.
Did that come from?
So nothing comes from nothing, and that's scientific as it comes. Something always comes from something. So when it comes to that, I wish Arkansans and the Bible Belt people would open up their mind to the point that God is a 3-letter word which describes something of infinite possibilities.
It's a mouth sound
that we can't understand.
Yeah.
We can't. One of my songwriting friends wrote a song. He said, "Eternity to the finite mind, the oceans can't fit in a cup." That's where we are. We can fill this cup with all the knowledge that we can possibly handle, and there's still oceans that we won't understand.
And in those oceans, what exists?
Right.
What is possible?
And we can't even fathom it. That's why when I think about heaven, people like, whenever I was younger, like, I don't want to go to heaven because that's just sitting around on a cloud strumming a harp. I'm like,
I don't even like singing at church. Like, that's what when I was a kid, I'd be like, I don't like the singing part. Like, we just sing and clap, and it's good for like 2 songs, and then I'm ready to go eat lunch.
But man, you look at the galaxy, and then you look at the universe, and you see these renderings, these pictures that we see, that this thing is so much bigger than just Earth. And
man, just down here in this little valley, out on my deck, I got a nice little wraparound deck, and we don't have a ton of light. I don't have a street light, and we don't have a lot of light pollution. And I like some nights I'll catch the stars, and I'm like,
the Milky Way, man. And when you see it, you're just like, to me, what a precursor to what heaven might actually be like is imagine having a perfectly healthy body.
No
pain, and this, if we're promised sin and sickness and death are all going to go, that's the suckiest part of life, So to have a perfect body, and to be perfectly in communion with the one who made you, and to know that you have trillions upon trillions, and that's just the ones we can see, of things to explore, and it's an eternity to explore them. I mean, we could just sit and watch a blade of grass grow. I want to see it from 1960 to 1970s. I just want to see how this field changed. I want to see. Let's go back and watch the glaciers be made, because eternity.
I love time lapses.
Yeah, man, eternity is like, it's not just forward; it's forward and backward. And I want to go to show me when I was born. Like we could just. This whole thing is like beyond our concept of understanding. So there's no. To me, the heaven is limitless because we can't possibly conceive of what it is.
Yeah, well, you said the finite mind. That's a phrase that we deal with in philosophy constantly. Yeah. I tell people this frequently. There's two people debating, and one was an atheist, and they put he has this like it's not a piece of paper on the table, but it's like a canvas or board or something. You turn the pages, giant page. He's like. Draws this big circle, and he's like, "You, sir," the atheist. He's talking to the atheist. He's like, "You're a real smart guy, like one of the smartest people in the world, perhaps. That's why we're on the stage debating these topics, because we are qualified to do so. And I want you to take this marker, and in this circle, I want you to shade your knowledge. This circle represents potential knowledge." And the guy walks up, and he's like. And just makes like a little bitty and he's like, and he's probably a little generous with it too, kind of like circles it in a little bit. And he's like, "You're smart. That's a lot of knowledge." Got me, but it's still just like a speck in that big circle. And he's like, "So what you're telling me is what you just said can't exist in all of that blank space
outside of our knowledge."
And I was just like, man, that's mind blowing.
That's it, man. It's as simple as that. And in that, again, to me, it always comes back to this point. We have to be humble, and we have to, because we look up at the stars, look at a tree growing. I'm like, I didn't make that tree grow. I can't make a tree grow. I can plant it, but I don't water it. I don't sunshine it. I can't do that, but it's being done. It's living this life beside me. And so if we remain humble, then we can still be teachable. As a matter of fact, I've got a T-shirt coming out that says "Only the humble heart is teachable," because I honestly believe that. And if a person's full of pride, full of arrogance, and like, well, I can tell you this, the world was definitely made 68 billion years ago, and that's a fact. Well, to him, it is a fact. He won't be changed. Arrogance has a hard time learning, but humility is open for learning.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Did you feel like you infuse a lot of your thoughts and philosophies into your songs?
Well, I think with Folkster, I stepped into some things. I've got a song describing, it's called Sophie, and it's like, Sophie, she comes to me, Sophie, she runs from me, I love her, but I don't understand. I just start describing this girl, and she's beautiful, and she's wonderful, and she's humble, and she's all these things, and then I'm like, hey girl, I picture myself as kind of just this drunken idiot at the first part of the song. It's like, hey girl, why don't you stay, girl? Don't run away, girl. I'm acting the fool. It's like, it's cool, but, and she's like, hey man, that's so uncool, friend. Don't be a tool, and then we'll be cool. That kind of thing. She responds back to me. And so I go through another verse, and I'm still acting the fool. And then I get to this part, and this cello part that we got worked up is so sweet, man. We get to this part, and it's basically, Sophie is, in Sophio, in Greek, is wisdom. And basically, he's having a conversation with wisdom. And in Proverbs, wisdom is described as a woman, in the Bible. And so she just outright, she's like, he asks her again, why won't you stay? Why you always run away? And she just like puts her foot down. She's like, I've never once left you. And he's the one, he realizes in that moment, how we have that pre-lobal front, moment in our 23s where it's like, that's right, it's me that's been running away. And suddenly he's humbled. And so we get to put a little cello part in there. It's just like real soft. It's just like a little transformation. And then he comes to her and he's like, hey girl, I've been away, girl, but I'm gonna stay, and let's be husband and wife through joy and through strife. Let's make this thing work. And so I've got a video idea for it. It's just gonna be, Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, and I'm so excited because, like, to me, if we can transfer wisdom via music, you know, as well as just, don't get me wrong, I write some stupid songs too. Like, I've got a song called "Ding" about I couldn't figure out a ding on my phone. My kids love it, but I've got a ding on my phone. I'm like, what is that? Like, so I started writing this song. Like, is that Vine? Is that Google? Am I Batman? Is that my signal? Like, I write those songs too. But you know, to me, if I can reach here and dig in people's hearts and say, this matters, you know, let's learn together.
Well, I mean, I love going through a spectrum of emotions.
Yeah.
It shows like that Todd Snyder show. I never even really listened to his music except my buddy called me. He's like, hey, you want to go to Todd Snyder?
Next time he's playing, and call me up, man.
Yes,
I want to go and check him out.
Definitely. It's the same guy I saw Drive By Truckers with.
Yeah.
So like we've been, and then we come back and we talk about the concert on the podcast.
Yeah.
But Todd Snyder made me laugh out loud like 4 or 5 times during the show.
Yeah.
But man, then he was like pulling my heart out with a couple of songs. And then, you know, then sometimes it was upbeat and I was happy and I wanted to clap or whatever.
Right.
You know, and the show, I left there just awestruck because I was like, man, I just went through a spectrum of emotion in one little, I would just sit down for 2 hours. And
we'll see, solo or with a band?
He was solo.
Awesome.
Just him and the acoustic guitar, and he started off, I believe he started off with D.B. Cooper.
Cool.
Song he's got. So he tells a lot of story songs.
Yeah.
And,
now, where did you play?
It was at George's.
Okay,
yeah.
In Fayetteville?
Yes.
Okay.
Small venue.
Yeah.
But they bring through some incredible talent.
Yeah, I played there. I mean, not saying I'm incredible talent.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, you wouldn't be on this podcast if you weren't.
You wouldn't be in George's.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah. I mean, it's impressive to play. So, do you know Chris Thompson? Did you do his podcast?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah,
I just listened to his podcast a little bit the last couple of days. So he's like on the same, like I'm technically like rank him in jiu-jitsu or whatever, but he's his own individual man in martial arts. Like we hang out when we can, and but we're all on the same team.
Yeah,
and he's a good dude. But I thought I'd seen you on his podcast. I saw your name at least.
And he loves guitar, man.
He does.
He's fierce.
I was listening to him play, he did one over just him. Talking about his life story or what have you. And he's talking about all his music and stuff. And I was like, oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know this about you. And it's in this depth, you know?
Yeah.
So.
No, it's, yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, any other thing I know Life Unraveled.
I know.
What
else could we do that's it's going to offend somebody? So we can get that in there too.
Yeah, I know.
What other topics can we?
I think we hit the spectrum.
We've hit God. We've hit the
religion, politics, women's rights.
The women's rights. That's going to blow up.
Yeah. Did we talk about immigration? I think we touched on it.
Let's do it then. Let's immigration. I think that people. I think that people should be vetted, absolutely, to make sure that if they come from terroristic backgrounds, we really don't want people like that to join our culture and become a part of it. But at the same time, these little kids, these little 4, 5, 6-year-olds, we need to be. Man,
I watch a video on refugee, or just it was a video of a war zone. Like it was, I want to say maybe Iraq. I don't even remember where it was because I couldn't.
It's hard to conceive of living like that.
I know they were literally running out there and picking up bodies, and I mean all little kids, and you could tell which ones were like the reporters that were there, and I mean it was just.
It's so strange that the things that they're plagued with, our kids, they have no concept of. And I try to. I remember one time my kids were complaining about something to eat, and I just pulled up my laptop, pulled up a homeless child sitting there, and I put him at the head of the table just facing us. I'm like, this is how we're going to eat. And if you don't eat everything, not everything on your plate, but if you don't eat what's sitting in front of you, then, just take a look. He would. Like I feel like you have to expand your kids' world to make them know that it's not, oh no, my Wi-Fi is not working. It's I picked up my brother's body, but I couldn't find his arm, so we'll just have to bury him without his arm. That's some people's lives that are your age. So I really do try to impress a worldview on my kids because I don't. They're going to grow up selfish. They're going to grow up entitled.
Something about having a developed worldview. I didn't start developing, like I said, my worldview until I was in my 20s, and I've been fortunate enough to travel. Only been out of the country a couple of times, but I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the U.S. and just expanding my worldview in that way and learning about other cultures. And this Western Civ 2 course is kind of the bane of my existence right now because I'm not really a world history guy. I can be. I'm classically trained, I guess you could say. But I'm just like, somebody said something, they're like, oh, you're doing a real good job about these topics, you know, and I was like, thank you, because teaching the history of the world over the last 500 years is difficult.
That's difficult.
You know, and it's like...
And there's built-in biases. I mean, the winner writes the history, right? So if you want to try to find out what really happened, well, good luck. You know, you're going to have to...
Granted. Man, I'm way more fascinated today than ever before. Having even gone through it in college a couple of times by the Protestant Reformation.
Yeah.
Like Martin Luther, that dude, he was on fire.
Nail it to the...
Yeah. And what was funny is he was like, I really wasn't meaning for it to be that big of a deal.
Right.
Nailing it to the door is a normal way to bring up a discussion, you know.
That's how you do it.
But what was crazy is, so people say if the printing press had not have been around, he would have been burned at the stake.
Absolutely.
And because they're within 200 years, there had been a lot of other people that had similar ideas.
Right.
And what was wild to me too is because so he basically debunked everything the church was selling to the peasants, indulgences, the veneration of relics, like he had to walk up these stairs. I reading his account about it and say the Lord's Prayer on every step, and then he got to the top and was like, I don't believe that this is going to get me out of purgatory at all, you know. But it was funny, but too, he writes a lot about how he went through this time where he had divorced himself of the church's ideas, and he was just reading the Bible, and he had no idea, he had not formed Lutheranism, his theology, yet, until one day he comes across Apostle Paul's writings. Did you have any problem with these Japanese ladybugs, dude?
Oh,
they infested my house.
No, I didn't.
And every now and then I see one crawling around. I was like, no, don't get on the deck.
No.
Yeah, so this is the glory of the podcast, man. It goes everywhere. But I sucked probably 5,000 of those things up in a shop vac.
My friend Billy and Paula Reeder.
Yeah, I was going to say, Billy Reeder had it way worse.
And he was allergic to the bugs, right?
Oh, man, I think he was.
So he was hacking and breaking out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do have a unique smell to them when you start sucking them up. I think he probably left his vac in the house.
Oh, that'll do it, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna have him on the podcast.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's super cool dude. So, I love how he's involved with the community too.
Yeah, and whenever he was running the crossing downtown, that was such a nice. That I really feel like Russellville specifically is missing that community place where people can go and hang out. And music for me.
I love what downtown's becoming.
It's cool.
I go to Midtown Coffee a lot.
Yeah,
but I would love it so much more if it was downtown.
Yeah.
You know, I hate going over that city mall to park.
What is with coffee shops that don't have bathrooms or drive-thrus? That's weird.
Super weird.
Yeah, Midtown, I'm like, you need a bathroom or a drive-thru. You'd make so much more money with a drive-thru. So.
Yeah. They are getting some sort of little coffee
kiosk
truck
or something? Okay.
They're going to put it up over by that funky junkie spot.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so.
But
the guy trains with me. I guess they've been through a few owners. He's been on it for
was it Josiah?
Yeah, Josiah.
Yeah, I love Josiah.
Yeah, slaps the best.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He and his wife train at the gym, and real good dude. Yeah. I was creeping back on his Facebook the other day when he was in high school and stuff. He's looking now he's got this scraggly beard and stuff. Yeah. I was like, that's you, dude.
He needs a bathroom. Put it downtown. Actually, the coffee shop downtown, Penny U, has been sold, right? Yeah. So now that's going to become that retro arcade.
Yeah, that's what I heard about that. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
More stuff. I don't think there's a retro arcade like that except until you get to Fayetteville,
right? Maybe
Salem Springs or something.
Yeah.
But
shoot, I'd go just to reminisce.
Man, I just got one of those Super Nintendos, the retro ones, and I bought it off Facebook Marketplace, and whoever I bought it from uploaded 400 games.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, dude. Akora has already beat 2 or 3 of the Marios. She plays it all the time.
I allow myself once a year, a game's going to come out, and I'm just I can't wait for that game. So I had to put it away, and Like I do it, and like usually it's in November is when the good ones come out. And I'm looking forward. 2018 has Anthem, this new like game that looks really, really cool. So one time a year, I just allow myself just to
binge out
binge out, and that's it though, because I can't do it. Otherwise, I would do it all the time.
I'm super into the retro games, man. Like I don't know why. I shared this funny article on Facebook yesterday. It was like archaeologists discover a group of men in a college dorm still playing 007 GoldenEye, and I was like, yeah, and I was like, I'm killing those dudes where they respawn, because man, I can't tell you how much I played that game. It's one of the only N64 games I still have.
I think I played that too. I'm trying to remember. It was GoldenEye. Is there a part where you can like ride a bike and stuff, or maybe I'm thinking of a different?
No, that might have been the second one. They made a second one, but like GoldenEye was like the father of the first-person shooter. Yeah. Like is the Pierce Brosnan and James Bond.
Yeah,
but I don't remember riding a bike. You could ride a tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool game. Came out when I was a kid, man. I burned it up. That and that Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Yeah,
such a good one.
No, Zelda nut. That's another. I mean, I hate to say it, but if my kids had to find a drug, I mean, playing a video game is a lot. You don't get anything done, but it's a lot more healthy than, you know.
Yeah, what's crazy to me, and I don't believe this at all. Like, there's a sect of parents out there that they're propagating this idea that like iPads are like do the same thing to your brain as cocaine.
I think social media does to a degree.
I could see that on social media, but they're talking about screens.
No.
They're talking about the act of looking at a screen.
Well, if that's the case, as we stare at these screens, I will say there's. Well, I played last night, and I never understood this. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of the places that I played. But I've never understood why you would have live music and have 30 television screens going on at the same time. You know, to me, it's like you celebrate what you have. Celebrate the person you're actually paying money to come in and perform. You know, if people want to sit in a different area.
Yeah, I know. That's what I like about George's is they've got they got some TVs and stuff up front at the bar.
Right.
But out in the back, it's a venue.
It's a venue, right. I just think if you're going to go to the trouble of having live music, why not celebrate that?
What do you know about? Have you played the Old Bank?
Yeah, I played there one time. I enjoyed it, but it also had that vibe.
Yeah, so aren't they downstairs next door? Is that going to be kind of a concert?
I've heard that might be a venue coming, but I've heard that for the last couple of years. I haven't really seen any. Are they doing work to it?
They're working on it, on and off. I've seen them. I looked in there the other night. I think once they're able to just get me my food in a decent amount of time.
Well, that was part of the thing is I played there, and the place was just packed out. I mean, because I'd never played there before, and it was still relatively new. And I was getting texts from people, but like we're out here waiting. They said it's a 45-minute wait, and I'm like, that's because food's taken.
They have apparently a super small kitchen.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and I hope maybe they're going to expand the kitchen. Maybe they could do that. That would be for the place. It's so big and it's beautiful. Like the inside of it is beautiful.
I like going there, but I'm hit or miss on the service.
Yeah,
but I keep going back.
Well, where else is there?
I know, right? It's about the coolest spot. I don't like going to Buffalo Wild Wings.
No,
I mean, it's just
I just wish that we had some place with that vibe that would celebrate the music side of it and just be like, hey, if you guys just and you know what might happen though, and this is probably like a worst case scenario. Nobody would come to the music side.
Yeah.
They'd be like, they want to stay where the TVs are.
Or you'd get your hardcore, like your one person up there, just like I remember.
Karaoke.
Did you play at the Refugees recently? Acoustic Refugees.
Oh,
I know they played downtown.
They played downtown.
I didn't get to make it. I was out of town, but
I was out of town too.
Dr. McDougal played. Oh man,
yeah,
he shreds.
Yeah,
he played at my cousin's wedding. Everybody's drinking out of the keg and dancing. And I've already been to the keg and brought my beer back. And I'm standing up there like, whoa, he's playing My Girl on the guitar. And I was the only person up there by the stage. And I was just like, I was so into it, man.
I've got sunshine.
Man, he kills it on that song.
Yeah. He does.
I was super excited.
And he's just as nice as, I don't know if you ever spent much time with him, but
not a lot. His son
really
Andrew
nice
and I were
really
the same
nice
age.
Okay, yeah.
So I've been over to his house a couple of times and saw him as an eye doctor a couple of times.
They actually do one of my songs on my first album. It's called Sunsets, and they do it better than I do. I'm not even playing it anymore. I'm just like, you guys can have that one. It's It's so much. And Roxanne, their singer, she's recovering, but she had some issues with her voice. So
I didn't know that.
She played guitar with them this last time that they played downtown, and they have another singer. So, but amazing band, Acoustic Refugees.
Oh yeah, Dr. McDougall is a guitarist, blows my mind.
Who are some of your? I mean, around here locally, are you vibing off any new music, or is there anybody?
I mean, we mentioned Lucero. I would consider that somewhat local, but not new. New stuff in the area. Man, I'm devoid on anything coming out of Arkansas that's new.
There's an eclectic band, and like purposefully eclectic. They want to be different. Named Couch Jackets that are really starting to pick up. And
where are they out of?
They're from Clarksville, Russellville area, and
interesting.
Yeah, and it's worth a listen. Like if you want something that's different, it's going to be different, but it's just neat to hear an alternative music coming out of rural Arkansas.
I know, and there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of great music coming through here, and that's from here that's been around for a little while.
Yeah.
My buddy just saw. Have you tuned into this concept of these what they call living room shows?
Yeah, house concerts.
Yeah, he just saw one in a basement of a church recently. The Bottle Rockets.
The Bottle Rockets. I know that name.
Yeah, I've just listened to a little bit of their music, but they're kind of a truckers-esque band, and but they're doing another one I think coming up in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
I'm going to see Dr. Dog here pretty soon. He's playing at George's.
Dr. Dog.
I haven't listened to any of his stuff in years, but this same buddy of mine, man, he is lighting it up, going to shows. Two Cow Garage is somebody he's kind of turned me on to that he really likes. I think we mentioned them earlier.
Well, I think being a musician right now, like I have the fortitude of having 20 years under my belt, which I'm thankful for, because I think it's always the earlier you started, the easier it is to, because right now these bands are coming out, and how do you compete if you have no built-in audience? How do you compete in that? You try to go out and play as much as you can, but people aren't really going out nearly as much as they used to, because people can stay at home and stare at their phone.
I know.
And then people do live streams from the show, and I'm kind of torn on this. It's like, well, the benefit is to actually experience the music and be there, but at the same time...
See, I wonder if a YouTube live stream wouldn't be way better, because I know of no way to monetize what you're doing on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I think with the only way you could do it...
you could do a store and stuff like that.
Right, or PayPal. I just put my email out there and be like, if you want to send me a tip. I've done some live shows, and like one time I came and I did a show for maybe like 120, 150 people, something like that. And I came home and I still wanted to play. And I was like, I'm just going to play some more, And so I picked up my thing and started playing to Facebook Live, and someone said, hey, how can I tip you? I was like, here, PayPal.
What a good idea.
Yeah. And so but what was crazy about that was, the algorithm was pushing the live shows more then. And I think I did a 20-minute set. I ended up making, $40 or $50 just in tips. And then
gas money.
4,000 plus people saw it. So as a musician...
You can't pay $50 in advertising for that many people to see it, hardly.
As a musician, how are you going to do that? How else are you going to... Do you want to go out and play for 100 people, or do you want 4,000 people to see the same music, the same shit? So I really feel like we're at this strange tipping point where live music still matters, but it usually has to be a pretty big event. Like U2, we're going to go see U2. That's a huge event. We're only going to do it once in our life.
I wonder how good they're going to be live.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I saw them once before, and it was amazing.
There's so much more to be said for the live performance.
Yeah.
I'm going to say right now, like, there's not a knock on your recording process, your albums, or anything, but I've seen you live, and I've listened to your CDs, and obviously your digital music, and there's just nothing. And it's not you; it's all bands. Like the live show is like, I've bought several albums after seeing the live show, and it's like that band you hadn't really heard of or whatever.
Connection.
And you go put it in the CD player, you're like,
It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. And that, honestly, that's the way I felt about so many of my albums. And part of what it is, I think, is that by the time that you have spent time with the songs and started actually being like, okay, let's just change this verse here. Let's put this in a different key. Let's bring it up.
Do you feel like it's the environment too?
You mean the fact
like you like playing live versus you being in the little wooden room?
Oh yeah,
or whatever.
I can't. I mean, I know some people love it, but I can't stay in the studio. I've played over 5,000 shows, maybe probably closer to 6,000 shows now. Yeah, I know. So to me, there has to be somebody to, I'm even thinking about inviting some people into the recording session just to just be there so I can have somebody that I'm actually,
Yeah. Again, like we talked about
energy.
things feeling forced or what have you.
Yeah.
And it just seems something kind of awkward to when it's like, oh, I'm going to go sit down in here. This will be the day that in the time in which I play the best sounding version of the song in which I've written. I'm going to plug it in.
Right, and you're playing it all alone. And I admire people who are so good in the studio.
I have a problem. I can never like this. Luckily, I don't have to touch it later. This is as it was. But I have a problem. I mean, I've written music over the years. I got a couple guitars hanging up in the living room, and drum kit and a bunch of other stuff over here in the other room. And I just always have a problem with being satisfied with the work.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it could be better. I just did the words and the arrangement.
No, man, I'm the same way. That's why this new album, I'm not going to mix it. I'm going to record it, and I'm going to okay it and say, okay, this is a good recording. This is all these raw tracks are good, and then I'm going to hand it over to the person I trust to mix it and be like, you do, I did what I was best at, and you do what you're best at. Do you have a
program you use or they use to mix it with?
No, I really think it's just it's the ear. It's the ear of the person that you have. Yeah. That's really
my buddy can do some amazing stuff with this program called Logic.
I've got Logic Pro.
Yeah. Well, that's what he had, Logic Pro. So he's mixed like I'm doing this on GarageBand. Unfortunately, I want to get.
It's all the same.
It really is. He's like, bro, imagine this GarageBand here, but Logic is like 1,000 times better.
I started on GarageBand. So
it's just super turnkey.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you need right now. You don't have to.
Oh, I know. I was like, I already got everything. What I want to do is I keep having to loop back and delete my audio and video files from the podcast because they'll start filling up. Filling up my memory.
You do external hard drives and.
Well, I put all of the GarageBand stuff goes on the cloud.
Yeah.
I have a Google Drive, but cool. When I should use my external hard drive, but I just haven't. I'm trying to get a whole external device.
They're finally getting really affordable. You can get 4 terabytes, and it's.
Oh, I know, man. I should do that. I was telling somebody recently. I think it was my college class that when I started school, a 512 megabyte flash drive was $40.
Yeah.
I remember going I'm freshman in college, 19 years old, go down to Walmart, I'm going to need this. I could score this many papers on it, this many pictures.
Right,
that's what it was all about, papers and pictures. Couldn't put any songs on it.
No.
But it's a couple songs will really tank this out. But I think I still have that little Lexar flash drive.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is that and being an audiophile, because if you're listening to vinyl, then you probably are an audiophile. You've got this kind of appreciation that MP3 is the crappiest sounding format, and my son will go around and listen to Spotify on his phone, and it's coming out of these crappy little speakers, and it's I know it's convenient. I know that you are technically getting to hear the music, but it's
well, that's why one of the reasons I went to the headphone amp is because I just felt like the quality in which I'm going to hear your voice, you're going to hear mine, the audience. I mean, it has less to do with the audience, more how we hear ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's why I was I kind of came to the conclusion. I was like, well, I need to do a little better job, and this will. That and the headphone amp's $50 or something.
Yeah, no, those
totally
preamps
serves
are
its purpose.
Yeah. I've actually run my vocals through those preamps before, the ART preamps.
Yeah.
Makes it a little richer, a little warmer.
I didn't know this, but I had to get a special stereo to mono cable.
Yeah.
I had to do the same thing for coming from the TV. I was trying to just do instrument cable essentially, and it was only giving audio in one earphone.
Oh yeah, because and
I was like, what? And my buddy Dylan, who's he's mixing a lot of. I'm working a couple of friends and I came over and we recorded some different intros for the podcast. I haven't started using them yet.
Yeah.
Where they're mixing them down for me and stuff. And he's like, dude, I don't know what's going on here. I've never seen anything like this one earbud thing. And I was just like, finally, Brian Chenoweth.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to have him on the podcast.
Valley Piano.
Yeah, such a great dude.
He's great.
He's and too, he's been pretty instrumental with helping me.
Instrumental?
No pun intended. Help me figure out some of these cable things. He's had several things I needed in stock.
And he's about to move, right? He's about to move to the west side of town.
I saw him talking about it recently, just kind of looking back, but we just became friends on Facebook. I've done some business with him over the years, but I just kind of was like, this is going to be the dude I go see for anything. Yeah. He's such a nice guy. He loves Star Wars.
Incredibly competent. Loves Star Wars. Yeah, I mean.
It was funny. I went in there the other day, and he's like, yeah, man, I really like your podcast. That first episode, that guy talking about Star Wars, I had some points I would have disagreed with, but I was just like, really, you should come on and talk about them, I'm
going to talk about Star Wars right now. Okay.
Play it on me,
All right, man. The Force Awakens, loved it, brilliant. Last Jedi, loved it, brilliant. But here's the thing, right? When I go to watch a movie, I don't watch any of the trailers.
He doesn't either.
I watch the very first trailer, and then I don't watch anything else.
I used to feel like not a fan for doing that, and then I found out it was a thing. I was like, I don't care enough about Solo to watch the trailer.
No, I don't. I just want, when I go in there, I want to watch it like a 12-year-old boy. I just want to be like, whoa.
No expectations.
Yeah, no expectations, man. Because when you do that, you're really getting the full effect of what the film writer is.
Well, and you know how on the trailers, I remember picking up on this when I was like a 12-year-old boy. It'd be like they put all the funny parts in the trailers, or like put two things out of context,
right? Where
it's like that line didn't even exist in the movie,
right? And they will, like, J.J. Abrams, and whenever he's doing something, he's always constantly trying to, misdirect so that it confuses. But I think they give too much away, and I want to be visually surprised. I want to be surprised with the plot. I want to be completely.
And I love that opening scene of Last Jedi.
It was hilarious.
That's and that space battle.
Yeah.
Like when he does like the drifting of the X-Wing.
So cool, man. Yeah. And I wanted to watch it again in the theater, but it went off, before I got to go back and see it.
I know. I wanted to see it twice. Jesse, the guy I was mentioning, came on the podcast, Jesse Weiss. He's a sociology professor at U of O. I'm going to have him back on. This guy's been to like every national park in the U.S. and has a jacket with all the patches of all the parks he's been on. So like he's a national parks expert. And like we were going to talk about that, but we ended up just talking about Star Wars for over 2 hours.
Well, here's what I want to happen. Since I have no idea what the next movie, I want Rey to be a Kenobi.
Oh, me too. I've always kind of been fascinated by that.
For real, like I don't care how it happens. I just want her to be a Kenobi.
They're going to do this Kenobi trilogy or spin-off movie.
Exactly,
one or the other.
Exactly. So I think this would be a really good time to.
Plus, Ewan McGregor, you got it.
I love Ewan McGregor, man.
Me too.
That dude is just like I try not to envy people, but there's like 2 people, maybe 3 people that I think, man. That's a pretty fun job. Jared Leto, 30 Seconds to Mars, like that band, amazing.
They're playing at the Amp soon.
Are they really?
Yeah, I just heard a commercial for it on the radio last night.
I would actually go see them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. What was that crazy movie he was in? Super
Requiem
sad.
For a Dream.
Yeah, about the addiction.
Dude, that is sad. That is like
I probably wouldn't. I've almost watched it again.
I got 3/4 of the way through. The very first time I remember watching a video cassette, 3/4 of the way through it, stopped and wept. And then finished it and wept again. I mean, that's how much it affected me. And I think I started.
I don't think I can ever watch it again.
I don't think we need to. I think that was Darren Aronofsky. Wasn't that the person that directed? Same guy who did Pi and Black Swan and those things.
Yeah, Black Swan.
I think, and that may not be him, but for some reason I associate.
I want to say it is. Yeah. I want to say it is.
But dude, man, just heartbreaking.
Yeah, Jared Leto is.
But that dude, yeah.
Yeah, he's an artist.
He's got
man. Did you like him in Suicide Squad?
Well,
I didn't really like Suicide Squad.
Again, I try to watch movies like a 12-year-old, but the 12-year-old boy movie was kind of like, it's hard to get behind. You got all bad people. Like these are all bad people, and I'm supposed to identify. In the story, that's what we do. We kind of self-identify. We think, well, who are we most like, and who and we all kind of picture ourselves as a hero. So everybody probably identified with Will Smith's character.
I know. I was about to say I liked Will Smith's character the most
because that's the one that like there's a chance of redemption there. There's a shot of and we want to see that. We want to be redeemed. We want to see redeemed.
Like Bullseye, right?
With Joker, was it Bullseye or Deathstroke or Deathstrike? I can't remember. One of those.
Yeah.
But he. But everybody was bad, and so Jared Leto, while he played a very crazy part, I don't know. I wasn't very attracted to the whole.
Yeah.
But I've seen that with a lot of TV shows. I mean, Orange is the New Black and
I almost made a joke earlier about Orange is the New Black, but I didn't know if you'd seen it. So let's loop back to the old bank real quick.
Okay.
So I was up there having a beer with one of my buddies the other day upstairs, and we're just sitting at that bar because there's the one downstairs is flooded.
Yeah.
Well, and then so like the fire chief here in town.
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, so he plays in a band.
Yeah.
And he was playing that night, and I was like, I looked up there, and for some reason I just couldn't stop thinking about Caputo playing the bass up there in the bar. It's just like I was dying though. I was looking at it because I guess Caputo has the mustache and he has the mustache, and I was just like, the fire chief's in a band. This is great.
Yeah, Richard's way cooler than Caputo.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But I was just like,
but I can now I'm scarred in my mind. I'm thinking next time I see him, I'm gonna see Caputo. But
super nice guy. He did an inspection on I want to say our building we're in now when we moved in. So
no, he is, and his daughters Nick and Sam. They're they grew up around here and they played music everywhere. And now
that's his daughters.
Yeah, they're in Nashville, and
wow,
they're doing something. I heard they're putting together a new band or something.
Have you heard of these two girls, Larkin and Poe?
I heard the names. Is it? They're not local though, right?
No, but they're out of Nashville. Okay. One of them plays the steel guitar on her lap in all the videos, and the other
that's
one,
what it is. I've seen.
They do covers like Johnny Be Good, and they'll be like, "Hey, it's Bob Seger's birthday. We're gonna play a song for you." I mean, that's just awesome. The covers they do on Facebook alone.
You gotta check out this girl named Elise Trow, Trouw. She is the future of music. And let me tell you why. First of all, it doesn't hurt to be gorgeous in the music scene, right? So she's already got that going on. But on top of that, phenomenal percussionist, phenomenal drummer.
Nice.
So she'll sit down and she'll start a beat, boom, and then she'll loop that.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. She did Radiohead's Weird Fishes.
She did. Yeah.
See, Humphreys McGee, who I mentioned we may go see at Red Rocks, they do a cover of that, and I love that song.
Yeah, but with Arpeggio Fishes, and then what was the other? It was Bed's Too Big Without You, Sting and the Police.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen her do another one, too.
She did a Foo Fighters one on Dave Grohl's birthday. Foo Fighters in 1970, so I can't remember the name of the song.
Speaking of people who do looping and stuff, have you heard of this girl, Tash Sultana?
The name sounds familiar. I don't think
she plays all these instruments, but there's this video of her playing out on the streets in Australia or somewhere. Not sure where it's at, but she starts off and then she starts looping and multi-effecting and just shreds. See, and it's a one person.
I loop, but I don't loop like they loop.
I know. I've got a looper in the other room there, and I'm just I'll lay down a little 4-chord something. My buddy's drumming, and I'll start doing a little solo over it, and then they're like, "That's so cool!" And I was like, "You dude, I'm nothing."
I just got my pedal board set up yesterday. I was like, you know how it is. I was pulling pedals out, and I had to set them up. And I'm just like, I just need to just give in and get a pedal board and just put it all together. And so I'm running these things now. And I played it for the first time last night, and I was like, yes, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hear that's totally the way to go.
Well, it's so much better to have them, because it was taking me 15 minutes to undo all the chords and do all that. And now it's just like, kaboom, step on it, let's go.
Well, I mean, just the little boxes or cases I know are pretty expensive that I've seen.
It was actually was it Christmas? Christmas, yeah. My wife bought it for me for Christmas. I just got around to putting it together though.
Yeah, nice. It's always nice when your wife, a significant other, supports your habit.
She is so encouraging. I mean, I couldn't be a musician and go out and do
yesterday for Valentine's Day, Cora gave me a Taco Bell gift card.
See, she knows you.
She loves me.
A woman knows you.
Yeah, there's gonna be so many 5-layer burritos.
What did you get her?
Well, yesterday I did not go get her anything because she was super sick, and I was gonna wait, and I got her some flowers last week. So I'm gonna do something for her today. Actually, she's got pink eye.
Oh no!
And from she's been sick all week. Yeah. So last night I was I stayed at the gym cleaning super late because she hadn't been there this week, and it was.
Look at I started talking about my wife. And
there we go.
She buzzes me.
My mind just texts me too.
Did you really?
Yeah. So do you need to get that?
No. I'm just gonna send her one of these funny things. I'm gonna say that I'm in the movies.
Nice.
You can just. I'm sorry, I'm in the movies.
Yeah.
Like,
custom
what?
text. Yeah, man. Too. Here's another thing my iPhone started doing. Is I can for example, write the word poop, and it will give me an emoji. It's like, did you want to say poop or do you want to put the emoji for poop? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna use the emoji. LOL is the little crying smiley face.
Yeah.
It's that's fascinating to me. The technology takes the word and can make it a little.
Half of everything I do, I've been talking to people about the Kickstarter thing, and just I do voice to thing, and then correct the mistakes if they're mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't want to type. I just want to say it and let it be done. So
I know. It's funny how like if we used to have like Motorola Razors. Someone was talking about that in my class last night, and I was like, yeah, man, I could text so fast on that thing.
That's nuts. Because to get to C, you had to go 111.
I know, and now I remember being a freshman in college texting in my pocket. And now I can't even complete a coherent sentence without autocorrect sneaking up behind me.
That's what I do too. I'm like, just do it. Just say it. Done. I'm done. You understand what I meant, even though half the words are wrong.
Yeah, it's well, I love it when people post their Facebook statuses up like that. It's like, I know a couple people that are like, they've done it. This is super botched, and then it becomes a big joke. So, mediums to contact you, social media, websites. What's the best way to get a hold of Some Guy Named Robb?
The best way to get a hold of me is definitely the website, sgnrobb.com. And right now, I've got an email thing. You can sign up and get 3 free songs. And one of those is actually, one is a song called Something Beautiful This Way Comes, which was off my last album. It's the radio edit. It's the polished up version, kind of shortened the intro and all that. And then another one is Bob Dylan's Times They Are Changing, which
you do a cover of that.
Yeah. Even as it was,
I love that song.
It was written so long ago, but it's so accurate. Like even to this day.
I love. You ever seen the movie The Watchmen?
Oh yeah,
they do that song.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
And
song.
they do some Leonard Cohen stuff in there too, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The late Leonard Cohen.
I shared some funny Bob Dylan video the other day. I might have only shared it with my buddy Josh, but it was this. I think it was a guy from the Beach Boys. Was it like a rock
Brian
and roll?
Wilson?
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't. I think it was Dennis.
Okay.
But it could have been Brian Wilson. But the guy was just going on and on, complaining, and like Bob Dylan gets up there and is like, "I'm glad that," just like totally went over Dylan over the top with it. I'm forgetting. You just said I have to see it. I'll see if I can't find it and send it to you. But I sent it to Josh Wilson. He was dying. But send
it to me. That sounds fun.
Yeah, cool. That's you do a lot of covers.
I went through a phase where I was like, no covers, nothing. It's all original.
You played. I heard you play Folsom Prison Blues one time.
Yeah. I've
killed it.
Well, I think that someone. Well, I think it's my dad. He talked to me. And he's like, whenever you do a cover, he's like, you're telling people where you're coming from, and then they can get on board with that.
I'm like, yeah, because I'm like, well, we listen to some of the same music. Exactly. I like you that much more.
Exactly. And so once there is connection, again, it makes that connection. But I think I try to choose my covers like I choose my friends, like, and one thing I ask is like, can I make this better? Because there's some covers I just don't think you should touch. Like, honestly, I've done the song by request before, but Leonard Cohen's song by Jeff Buckley, Hallelujah, is untouchable.
You do a great cover of Crash by Dave Matthews Band.
I love that, but I still don't think I do it as well as I try. I try to add my own thing. I actually do a mashup with a cover of Crash and The Freshman by the Verb Pipe.
Ooh, I like.
You remember that song?
Yes,
yeah. Yeah, and I love it. I love both those songs. So I try to honor the cover when I'm doing it, just because I want to. There's no sense doing a crappy cover, or doing a cover crappily, I should say.
Yeah, no, indeed. So how do you handle your? I mean, I feel like you probably you're established enough. You have these venues you play at, but I mean, do people just contact you at random and book you for events? I mean, how do you go about that process?
A lot of times, the festivals, it depends on where it is. But if I've played through there before, if somebody says, "Oh yeah, I saw Rob," in Taos, then let's book him for the Mile High Club or Mile High, not the club, but Mile High Denver.
Yeah.
Festival, that kind of thing.
But you've played. I mean, so you played all over the world, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to London and France and did a little thing over there, and that was a lot of fun. Interesting to see culturally how things were different. People read the newspapers over there, and it's nothing about celebrities. Like over here, everything's like, oh no, someone shaved their head, or someone cast shade upon someone else, whatever. But over there, it's just like. This happened in Russia, and so the papers like same things. Anyway, but musically though, people always want to be entertained, and it seems kind of funny if an English person comes over here, we're instantly attracted to their accent because it's different. And
sometimes Corey and I narrate our dogs laugh in an English accent.
I do the same thing, or Scottish if my kids are doing something.
Why not?
And then, but the same thing's true over there. They love our accent. They love our, they love to hear the new music.
Well, it's always we used to mention audiophile earlier, but like Francophiles, like people that are fascinated by French culture or English culture.
Yeah.
So
I think I took 4 years of French in high school.
Wow.
Yes, and so now
impressive.
I'm like, où sont les vestes s'il te plaît là-bas, afin de la couille face de toi, juste assis à côté de viens avec moi. And this sounds great, but I can only do a few of these phrases, right? And so I went over to France, and I'm like, I've been training my whole life for this. Right?
I'm fluent.
And I'm just like, and so what I noticed is we were at this little French restaurant right on the shore of the sea in a little town called L'Escale, and which is it's close to Normandy, or see the beach of Normandy. They still have the holes of the craters and stuff where people were.
I would love to see it. My grandpa was at Normandy.
Are you serious?
He was at Utah Beach, so he was actually at the least vile beach, but he said there's still bodies washing up from, was it Miami? Was that the center beach?
Yeah.
I can't remember what there were 5 beachheads.
Yeah. But just to be there and feel that, I mean, just like, you feel it, you really do. And you can see how impossible the task was. Like,
you ever seen that opening scene of Saving Private Ryan?
I know this is probably bad parenting, but when my kids were about 10 years old, I made them watch it. I'm just like...
That was about the time I saw it. My grandpa, I watched it with him, and he goes, yep, that's about how it was. And I was like...
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I remember I was actually working at the theater. That was like 97 or something that came out.
Used to work at Pickwood?
Yeah, that was my last job.
Andy Edwards? He's worked there forever, apparently. Well, he doesn't work there anymore, but he mowed the yards. He was working there.
Andy Jones?
No, this guy, he works for the highway department now, but he mowed the yards out there until they sold.
Really?
Yeah.
I probably know him, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, his son trains with me and has since he was like 10. He's like 16, 17 now.
I remember, though, I would, people, whenever they go in and they'd come out, older men, they'd come out and they come out crying because they had been there or they had been in war and they tasted. And we're talking like, men in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I forget how old at the time, but old enough to have been in the war.
That probably would have been 70s.
70s, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just really, that's why I wanted my kids. It's like, this is graphic, this is violent, but this is what war looks like. It's not just like bang, bang, everybody's dead. It's like
amphibious landing craft. I mean, imagine you've seen the iconic pictures. They're all like just a bunch of heads in there, and they were getting sprayed on the way in.
Yeah.
I mean, and then they land, and it's
right. And just the fact that like the ones that went into the water sunk to the bottom. Because they're so weighed down with gear, and they're just trying to,
we can only imagine.
Really, and that's, you've seen that meme saying that in 1945 or 1944, men were rushing the shores of Normandy, 18-year-olds were, and in 2016, 17, 18, 18-year-olds need safe spaces so that words don't hurt them because words are hard, and when you think about that, it's like, There's a blessing that comes with peace, but I also think there's a complacency and maybe I don't know, how would you say it?
Well, maybe that's not what you're getting at, but maybe like almost like scapegoating.
Yeah, to a degree.
Because I feel like, there's one particular instance. There's a famous actor that got out of World War II named Audie no, that's my graphic design guy. Audie Murphy. I almost said Audie Oliver from Black Cat Creations. Audie Murphy, like Eddie Murphy, but Audie. And he was in all these war movies, but he is well documented, suffered from some serious post-traumatic stress.
How could you not?
Yeah, exactly. But what's crazy to me is how many people from that generation, if they were just like, I'm just going to be an extra hard ass on my son or whatever, like, my grandpa just never talked about it.
Yeah.
He talked about it to me near the end of his life. I did a documentary film project for Tech for a class I was taking.
Oh, that's cool.
And like that to my knowledge, unless it was with a war buddy or something, is the first time he ever talked about it. And like, So, and he was in his late 70s at the time, maybe early 80s.
Yeah.
And just compartmentalized all of those experiences for that many years. And then he actually had a son pass away in Vietnam. Mm. So it's like, and he'd kind of like didn't talk about it, wasn't a thing. And his son did not get drafted. His son signed up, and he wanted his son to go to Canada. So you take
and you understand why he wanted to go to Canada.
Yes.
Yeah.
You take, because he was at that.
He's like, I've been there, and he understood what hell
he's seen war. Yeah. And his son ended up going and
dying,
got gassed in like a bomb crater. Like they said, somebody threw some gas in there, and like they said that at his funeral, like he's totally no damage done to his body or anything, just. Like they were like hiding out. They were trying to advance up this hill. They were keep trying to take this hill, and there was a bomb crater, and they just like jumped in it to hide, take cover, or whatever. Yeah. And somebody chunked some sort of poisonous nerve gas in there, and that's what took him and a few of his friends out. And all these streets in California where they're from are named after him, the whole neighborhood.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I feel like we've grown up on video games. We've grown up on when we pull the trigger, there's not really a consequence.
Call of Duty,
yeah, which may be part of what we're talking about with the gun shootings. You know, we're training people to.
Well, maybe, and this is far out there, but maybe it's a positive thing in that, like, I don't think the war we're talking about is the methods of war that we're talking about are gonna exist that much longer.
That's a good point.
With the robots and cyber warfare and technology that's happening, and I mean, I just talked about we've had drones since the 50s or 60s. Yeah. Had Google Earth in '88. NASA could read a license plate from 1 mile away in 1977. Why did they need to do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, so
satellite.
Yeah. Okay, I have a conspiracy about this. This is the NASA image of the day, which was done in Photoshop. Right. Thanks to the flat earthers.
As they all are, right? Yeah.
But yeah, right. I know you have to. But it's. What did you think about the Elon Musk, the car in space type deal?
Okay, well, first of all, they launched it and they recorded it and they used David Bowie's Life on Mars. So I was gonna watch it.
Yeah,
I just want to hear the song.
It's apparently still on a YouTube live feed right now.
Is it really?
Yeah,
just floating out in space. Yeah. Did they actually launch it to Mars, like on toward
I don't know.
Mars?
It's just floating in space with the Earth in the background.
It's just junk now. Yeah. We just littered. This is what we did. I think it's hilarious. First of all, I'm glad it was privately owned and operated.
Too.
You know, I'm glad we didn't pay for that. I think it's incredible. I mean, I honestly do. The fact
I love that it's privatized. I've been getting super into Elon Musk. That guy is solving he's trying to solve the traffic problem.
I know. And I've looked at his thing, the tunnels, the chutes. You know,
130 miles an hour.
That gets where you need to go pretty fast.
Indeed.
It's futuristic. I mean, we're coming upon this time where like nothing looks like it did 100 years ago. So nothing is going to probably look the way it does. I mean, landmarks and Earth itself is going to look the same, but not the way we do things. You know, and there's something about that. Like part of me is like, hey, don't do the GMOs. You know, let's not do that. We don't have to. I understand that we want to, but just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Exactly.
And I think there's in a lot of scientifical things like that, we forget to ask ourselves, should we do this? It's something like cloning. Obviously, you know they're cloning humans somewhere. They are, you know, I mean.
Yeah, there's some lady I just read that had her dog cloned in China or Korea, South Korea maybe. Crazy.
Because you can't find a dog anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
You can't find a little runt that's just...
This same lady had, she was like a Miss, entered the Miss America pageant and won her state, but she was this, I don't know if you've heard it, this Mormon, she was fascinated with Mormon men, and she would kidnap them and like rape them and stuff.
What?
And they skirted over it because they're like, well, a woman couldn't rape a man, but she would chloroform them and like straight up like that Misery movie, like chain them up and there's this. I've got to look her up again.
Yeah, that is not a fantasy of mine.
But she would only target like Mormon men. Yeah, totally out there like a planet. But she is also famous for being one of the first people ever dog cloned. Not only was she
in jail.
They, you know what?
No?
She was from England, and they wouldn't extradite her because like I said, they're like, a woman could never rape a man.
Right, that's impossible.
That's impossible.
Well, that's something else that the Me Too,
she did go to jail for a little while, though.
Brought out was that there's a lot of Me Too stories with men,
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see that. And like I was saying, like I had personally been put in a situation in which I was super uncomfortable.
Same thing.
And I wasn't even married at the time.
Yeah, same thing.
But Cora and I, we've only been married for a year and a half. We've been together for 8.
Right.
So it was sometime during that other.
But the point is, you do, as men, you get put in situations, and the worst part about being a man in a Me Too situation is that we are expected to want these things. Like, oh yeah, if I were to tell, like, something happened when I was 14 years old, a girl was really aggressive to me, an older girl was really aggressive, like about 2 or 3 years older, and as I was just like, what do I do? So I told a guy, and I told a friend of mine, I'm just like, well, this happened. He's like, yeah, man, right on.
Go, bro.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't think you understand.
I don't feel that way.
That's not what I was saying it for. I'm saying it because it felt wrong to me. It felt like something that shouldn't happen. But, you live with it, and then you go on, and then as you get to be an adult, you're like, I'd like to protect my kids from that. I'd like to make sure that, they don't get us put in a situation where...
Did you ever have that thought, like pre-parenting, where you're like, oh, how could I bring a kid into the world?
I think that's normal, man. I think it's normal. I think...
I don't get hung up on it, but no, I think about it.
But I think it's legitimate, but there's something so beautiful about looking at this thing that is really part of you and part of your spouse, part of the woman that you love.
That's so unique because, like, I've thought that it's like... That connection is, in a strong sense, has to be somewhat greater than like Cora and I. Like we don't have a blood relation going on. I consider like we're family. We're going to start a family together. We are starting a family, but I don't know. I just like every dad I've ever heard tell me this. Like you don't know what love is until you like hold your kid for the first time. Like you think you love your wife, and you do. You love your wife more than anything, and then something else comes out that's like you didn't know that's like a.
I think it opens up. It opens up for a lot of people. It did for me. The fact for me, it helped me see God in a different light. Because like you said, you do have a bond with your wife, and it's
very strong.
It is blood. It's the blood, that's shared. It's that grit and sweat. And tears
the kid. Yeah, and the kid brings you together too. I mean,
does.
You both made.
Yeah, and then, but at the same time, like you look at this thing, like for my son, when he was born. A lot of these super dads will be like, I held my son on the first day, and I knew I would never love anything more than this bundle of joy. That's the story. I held it. I was like, what the crap? I was like, what have we done? We can't undo this. We can't just like put him back in.
It's scary.
What are we going to do? So for 3 months, it was hellish. It was like him screaming and nights of getting up and this, and are we doing this right? Are we doing this right? And right about the 3-month turn, he looked at me and he smiled. And it was my smile. I mean, my smile on his face. And I was like, I get it now. I get it. Nice. I get it. Because then it's like, okay, right there, you're mine and I'm yours and I always will be. That's to me, that's... How'd
you say your son is now, 16?
He's just about to turn 14. We have about a few months, he'll turn 14.
Okay,
yeah. So, and that's it. To me, it's when you can't deny something that is your flesh, And I think that's honestly when God looks at us, he's like, they're mine. I'm theirs, and then they're mine. Because he sees his smile in our smile. So whenever I realized that as a dad, the more I was like, that's how you feel about me? Only 1 billion times more? It's like, I can get on board with that. I can get on board with that kind of love. And so, yeah, it's don't let it weigh you down. When it's time.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And and two, that's the one part of it that's sort of fascinating to me. Like, I don't feel like I have much of a biological clock working against me here. You know,
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 30, about to be 31.
Yeah, you're a baby.
Yeah. And Cora, fortunately for me, Cora is 25, about to be 26.
What?
Yeah, so she's got plenty of years left on her little...
in the cradle.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
No, that's great, though. I mean, because honestly, I think I was 29. I was just a few weeks away from being 30 whenever Isaac was born. And then my daughter 2 years later. And I think that is like the time where you're mature enough to not be the idiot that you were whenever you were in your time. I'm so thankful.
Oh, man,
I didn't have a kid.
Because at 19 years old.
Oh, and people do, you know, every day.
How do they do it? It's got to change you as a human.
They probably do it. They either do it really well and they're like rise up to the challenge, or they do it really badly. We haven't talked about abortion yet.
Yeah,
I'm just going to throw this out here.
No, throw it out.
All
because
right.
I have a lot of I guess you could say I have a lot of liberal viewpoints. I have a lot of conservative viewpoints. I don't identify with a Republican nor a Democrat.
I don't either.
But like a lot of my views would line up with, you could say, Democrat type views. But I'm like pretty anti-abortion.
Yeah.
And when people hear that, I don't care what they say.
Yeah.
Like I can't fathom that concept. There's no amount of good, I think, that could come from it to justify it being a government-sanctioned institution like it is.
And I think what you just said is the thing, government-sanctioned. I think it's like they privatized, NASA basically. They that's different. It's not, we didn't spend our money on sending a car up into space. That was private money. And the thing with when it comes to abortion, I look at it two ways, and my mind's expanded on this in the past few years, in the past 10 years probably. I look at it like, okay, there are people killing babies. It's as simple as that. I don't like to church it up and be like, destroying the fetus.
Life starts.
It's a clump of cells. It's killing babies. If you leave the baby alone, it'll grow into a human.
That's been the way I've always seen it.
So it is what it is, and that's why I think I don't think we should dumb it down. Let's call it murder. It's it is what it is. But here's the frustration part in my because I'm the same way. I'm conservative in some ways. I'm liberal in some ways. In a child's life, if we did that move by itself?
I back jerked it off the table. Cord.
Haunted sphinx. So in a child's life, if the mother doesn't want the child, and it commits murder, and it goes on to the mom goes on. If we don't, and we force a child to be born into a family that doesn't want it,
I know that's what sucks about it.
Then
too.
Are we not? We're going to have somebody in 18 years. We're going to have what? Are we going to have a rapist? Are we going to have somebody who's
sociopath,
who's been sold into slavery, by their parents who didn't want them in the first place? I'm just saying, like, there's a reason people don't have kids, and it's because a lot of times kids drain a lot of money. They require a lot of time, they require a lot of attention, and we see these kids in DHS, that have been chained to toilets. We see cigarette burns on their arms. You see all these things, and it's like, which is more kind, And the part that frustrates me with a really conservative idea is no abortion, no abortion, no abortion, and then okay, the baby's born. What are you going to do to help propagate that baby's life towards success? Nothing. I'm not concerned with that as long as we didn't kill the baby. Well, but you sentenced it to a life of cruelty. So I kind of have that thing. It's like, okay, no, I don't want abortion to be, but because it exists, and it's going to exist regardless of whether or not we do it, I don't want to put government money into it.
It's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It is. Deal. It is. And in the book Freakonomics, I don't know, have you ever read that?
It's been forever, but
right.
Yeah.
It talks about how they analyze the data, and they're like, the crime is going to be out of control in a few years. And then Roe versus Wade happens, and suddenly the crime starts going down and down and down. And they're like, well, the conclusion that we come to is that you killed the criminals before they could become criminals. And so...
Well, and at what point... you ever watch Black Mirror?
I love Black Mirror, yeah. That'll mess with your head.
Yeah, I mean, at what point do we start selecting those, people ahead of time? Or, I mean, if the technology evolves to a point where it's like, You remember the one with the military guy, and like he sees like a zombie because of his chip.
Right.
But, what do they call him? They have some like horrible word for him, like
Jex or Shex or something. Something like that.
Yeah. So but they're just normal people, but they have these impure bloodlines.
Right. And so
like,
they're
it's almost like Hitler 3.0.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy? Even we live in this time, as talking about Hitler, and people are already trying to deny the Holocaust happened.
I worked at the history department with a guy who unfortunately passed away, but and there was a Jewish guy in the department too.
Yeah.
And like they both they had an office next door to each other, if I'm not mistaken. And one of them was a Holocaust denier, and one of them was Jewish. And it's like, oh man, this is just. And they got into some sort of shouting match one day. I don't know if that was what it was about. But.
What's crazy is, and they made them. They made them take pictures. They're like, document these mass graves, document these frail bodies that are falling apart, and document the cruelty, because people won't believe it. You know, and now here we are in the age of misinformation. People don't believe it. People believe this false narrative that is led by a agendized propaganda.
It's crazy the conspiracies that are out there against the Jews.
Yeah,
and against white people.
It's just crazy.
I mean, they're like, it's not just Antifa and all this. I mean, it's just the 100 organizations. Like, that's why I love watching Vice News so much, is because they go off on a lot of these fringes of society topics, and will sit down and interview a white supremacist, and you're like, oh my goodness.
And that there are people out there that still, it blows my mind. I'll say this, one thing that I've seen that is just absolutely disgusting. It's called NAMBLA. Have you seen this? No. North American Man-Boy Love Association. It's pedophiles, and it's pedophiles with people with a lot of money, because these are legitimate. You should research it. It's horrific.
I will, because there's a crazy documentary out that I couldn't even watch more than like 15 minutes of it, called Conspiracy of Silence.
I haven't seen that.
Maybe don't even.
Yeah,
just read an article.
Yeah,
about
read an article.
But it's along the same lines what you're saying, like basically like pre-Sandusky, but along the same lines. It's like these elite societal people.
Yeah. My philosophy on when it comes to sex, no kids, no animals. You know, let's just keep it simple. The Bible tells us don't awaken love before it's time. You know, and these people. I saw a thing for the other day called trans age, #transage. And it shows a silhouette of a grown man, but inside the grown man, he identifies as a little girl, and therefore he's reaching out to a little boy, so it's okay because he's just trans age. And here's the thing is, what you'll see, this is my speculation, if people can get you to laugh at it, then they'll get you to eventually accept it. So,
have you seen what's going on with Canada?
No.
Jordan Peterson, all these gender pronouns.
No. Oh, and there's like 62 different pronouns.
Yes. So there's a guy that has been he's given a lecture on that. He's a professor at some university in Canada. His name's Jordan Peterson. I think that just based off our conversation today, your views line up with a lot of his views.
Oh yeah.
But he was giving a lecture about how the gender pronouns are a lie.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And a student at this university walks up to him and blows an air horn in his ear. Like, that's the world that we're living in.
Right.
You know, I mean, I know you've seen it during the election year and stuff on college campus, these little riots happening. Somebody get punched in the face. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so...
Well, was it Milo?
Yiannopoulos.
Yiannopoulos.
He was on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Where probably what you're, I don't know, but that he came on Joe Rogan and started talking about all this crazy stuff of him with his priest back in the day and how that was normal. And I will say this, I don't know why, and I'm not justifying or anything, but I do feel like in the gay community, if that's even the politically correct way to say it anymore, in the gay community, I feel like what we're skirting over right now is they accept it. And I've heard that, like, I'm propagating someone, like Joe Rogan was saying it recently, is like that people like Mio Yiannopoulos or George Takei, there's a story of him telling this, like when he's like a teenager off at camp with his counselor who's this 20-something year old and he's 14 or something, and You know, I mean, it's just like, well, it's like, oh no, that's normal in our community. It's like, and I think that's a generalization.
Right. But I think, again, though, I mean, what tends to happen is an idea or a philosophy is it's introduced through humor. And so we start laughing, oh, that was a funny joke about bestiality. Oh, that was a funny joke about, child pornography, all this kind of stuff. And I think it's more important than ever to draw the line. Then they can disagree with it. Truth is not abstract. Truth is absolute. So when it comes down to it, these decisions have already been made, and that is far beyond my pay grade. And I'm a flawed, messed up, screwed up human being in so many ways that I don't have a right to point at somebody else and be like, you really need to fix this about yourself. But I do have a right to say, this is unhealthy, and this is causing people to commit suicide, and this brings sorrow, and this brings sadness. So
as many of the things we talked about today.
Right.
I mean, not just whether it's why we just got on abortion.
No.
I mean, but no, I totally, what's the worst evil? And if you're having to choose between evils, that's
called the last election.
I couldn't even bring myself to go to the polls, man.
I want to vote for Matthew McConaughey because
yes.
I felt like he was going to make America all right again.
Man, do you ever heard that he got? I guess he lived on a beach or something, but he got arrested one time at his house, like playing the bongos naked, super high.
That's exactly what I expected to be arrested for.
Oh man!
Now you talk about a great actor. I mean, that dude. You see him in Dallas Buyers Club.
I haven't seen that yet. I have not seen that yet. I mean, I could watch it.
It's painful. It's kind of like Requiem for a Dream, but not quite that painful. It's a little more up.
Did you watch Wolf of Wall Street? He had a cameo in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yes.
That's super funny.
That was another crazy movie.
I know. I was trying to, I guess they took it off Netflix or whatever. I was trying to stream it the other day. I was on the road and I was like, well, I'll just turn it on, listen to it. And I couldn't find it. But that's a funny movie. I only seen it once, but man, it is out there.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Well, man, I feel like we've covered the entire spectrum of humanity.
Yeah.
We've talked about all of art, music,
the mysteries of the underneath the ice.
Yeah, we hit on aliens,
we went out
ice
space,
pyramids.
We went out to the pyramids and the. We're done, man. We never have to have another conversation.
We even talked about flat Earth. Next time we have you back on, we'll talk about dinosaurs being fake. But
I have a theory. Maybe dinosaurs are angels, and nobody's expecting them to look like that.
Hey, they did say that the T-Rex probably had feathers now. They changed their mind on that.
Oh, that's going to ruin the whole Jurassic Park series.
I know, right?
A big chicken.
Well, man, they just made the last one. They made the pterodactyls have T-Rex.
Right.
So, I mean, they've opened up creative license.
It's good. They can do whatever. Right.
Well, Rob, thanks so much for coming on. Some Guy Named Robb. One more time, just go ahead and tell people where they can get a hold of you, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up, man.
Well, if you agreed with some of the things I said, if not, then you're probably want to. I don't know if I want to tell people where they can get a hold of me now.
Indeed.
No. My website. You can find me on Facebook. You can. Some Guy Named Robb. Robb has 2 B's. A quick Google search should take you to my website, sgnrobb.com. You can get 3 free songs on there. The new album is The Folkster, and there is a whole lot of really good music hopefully coming out. And October 20th, 2018 is going to be the Center for the Arts. I do hope you will come. I think it's going to be a different kind of show, a show that Russellville has never seen before. So.
And is the album out yet?
No, not yet. No, we're recording it now. We recorded part of it at Sun Studios in Memphis, nice. Which was great. It was awesome.
Very nice.
And I'm excited about that. But the other part, we're still in the process of recording. So.
Okay, fantastic. You think October might see an album release party at this show?
Well, I'd love to actually get the album out before then and start working on the next one, because like I said, but I don't know if that's going to happen because these projects do take time. But there will definitely, good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. There will definitely be a new album out in 2018, hopefully by summer.
Excellent, man. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks for coming on, promoting the album, and just sitting down and talking with me, man.
Absolutely.
Right on, bro.
Thank you, dude.